of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah, but at least a 3-week extension of the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Questions, of course, will abound about whether Hezbollah is going to honour that ceasefire because they're not party to these talks.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. It's one of a number of options apparently being examined to punish NATO members for failing to support the Iran war. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation. Suspending difficult countries from important or prestigious positions at NATO is also another option apparently being looked at by the US. President Trump has repeatedly threatened to leave NATO, but the unnamed official said the Pentagon email made no reference to that. John Beaver reporting.
India and the United Kingdom are looking to deepen strategic cooperation after high-level talks between India's National Security Advisor and his British counterpart, Jonathan Powell. The discussions focused on security, technology and global geopolitical coordination. Ishan Garg reports from New Delhi.
India and the UK are stepping up engagement across defence, intelligence and emerging technologies. Officials say the talks between India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his counterpart covered counter-terror cooperation, Indo-Pacific security and supply chain resilience. Both sides also explored collaboration in critical technologies, including artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The dialogue comes as New Delhi and London push to strengthen ties after finalising a free trade agreement. Analysts say growing convergence reflects shared concerns over global instability and the need for trusted, strategic partnerships. Ishan Garg, New Delhi.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent Biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease. It's only meant to be sold and accessed by verified research institutions, and it's thought these datasets came from places that had legitimately purchased the databases before someone illegally put them online to be sold. Those organisations have had their access to Biobank information revoked, according to the government, which thanked China and e-commerce platform Alibaba for their help removing the listings before any purchases were made. Stuart Smith, London.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Following reports earlier today that Indiana University freshman Lawrence Plotnick's roommate Brian Tabor has found an excuse to go home every weekend since August, Plotnick spoke to Onion reporters about his roommate's frequent trips to his nearby hometown of Terre Haute, Indiana.
Every week since we got here, it seems like every time I ask him if he wants to hang out on Friday, he has some wedding or birthday party or something. In fact, I'm pretty sure he hasn't spent a single Friday or Saturday night on campus in the past 6 months.
Plotnick went on to cite a variety of far-ranging excuses used by his roommate to justify his constant visits home, including various family functions, a visiting friend from China, as well as his occasional desire to, quote, just hang out at home for a couple of days.
I mean, I suppose I vaguely understood when he had to go back in November because his best friend's grandfather died, but last weekend he had to go back for his aunt and uncle's wedding anniversary. He said he couldn't miss it.
This is the Onion News Network.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. That's 603-283-6160. That's the number you can call to get in on the conversation with us and bring up whatever's on your mind. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie. Angelo. Oh, I muted you, so go ahead. Me,
Thanks
Bonnie.
for that. Angelo.
Win.
And Mark Edge.
And Mark Edge. Sorry about that. So sorry, a little bit of bumps there because I muted people and I didn't put the microphone close enough to Wynn's face. But first time on the show for you, Wynn, and then first time in a long time for Angelo.
Yeah, I've been away, but I'm back. So, you know.
Yep. And so it's like all new, different people on the show tonight than the last several months. But you are ultimately the person that changes up what the show is about every week. So 603-283-6160 is the phone number. Here in New Hampshire things, and I guess Mark things too, I think is related. We've been trying to do a push towards talking more and more about freeing Ian Freeman, which you can go to freeiannow.org before the upcoming Bitcoin conference, because there's just rumors that there could possibly be maybe a pardon, like a group of pardons coming. And then when they announced that some feds from the FBI, or I didn't mean to say it like that, how to say it more respectfully. No, I'm just kidding. But some people from the FBI and such, like Kash Patel, are going to be speaking there. Some people just took that as wow, they might be doing that because they're going to give some pardons. I don't know that there's any, I have no way of knowing one way or the other if there's any substance to that. So just a bigger push than normal to free Ian has been going on the internet and such, and I've been really grateful with all the big accounts that have retweeted and liked my post, LPNH and the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, well, I was looking at the post there at change.org. Go to freeiannow.org. And I see that we're just 7 signatures away from 1,400. And we do want to be at 1,500 before the big event. It would be really awesome. And so if you could just go, please take a moment and go over there and sign at freeiannow.org. That'd be great. I think the reason that the expectation is that there will be these pardons at Bitcoin 2026 is because when Donald Trump spoke in front of the Libertarian National Convention just before the election in 2024, he made some promises, and one of the promises, I don't know what the verbiage is exactly, but basically he was going to end the war on crypto. And if you're going to end the war, you're going to have to release the POWs. And Ian Freeman is definitely one of the POWs. He's basically in prison for selling Bitcoin without a license. And you can find out more at freeiannow.org and go see that. And I think that there's a lot of value to Donald Trump to pardon him. I think, when it really comes down to it is that Donald Trump needs every vote he can get in 2026, because this isn't going to sound nice. It's going to sound like a threat, and it's not meant to be. This is just me looking at how things are. And how things are is if the Republicans don't retain the Senate in the midterms, then there's a very good chance that if the Democrats take over, that's where they, in all likelihood, the Democrats will impeach Trump in the House. But it doesn't matter if they don't have the Senate, because the Senate's where the trial is. But if the Democrats have the Senate, that means that Donald Trump goes to jail.
Dang.
He would be the first president to be impeached and be convicted. And that's a fascinating thing. I would imagine they don't want to find that out.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought about
what that would be like.
The
Democrats are just too rabid. I can't imagine they'd give up the opportunity to go after Donald Trump if they had it.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it like the impeachment angle of this. I'd only thought about
check.
Just that they don't want. Oh, I think you're coming through fine. I muted myself.
Wonder what
oh, you couldn't hear me? Okay. My bad. You can hear me now. Sorry about that, Mark.
Okay.
Right? Oh, okay, good. So I just wanted to say I hadn't thought about the impeachment angle of this. I just figured Donald Trump, he's a Republican. He probably wants the Republicans in charge. But we have a caller on the line if that's all you had to say about.
Yes.
And go to freeiannow.org.
If you're a good Republican, I think now's the time. Please go to freeiannow.org and sign the petition, because I have some insider information that it would be good for the Donald Trump, for the Republican midterms if you did.
Excellent. Let's see what Dave Ridley has to talk about. Dave Ridley from RidleyReport.com, and you're out in Colorado these days. What's on your mind tonight?
freeiannow.org.
Excellent.
Now everyone will be able to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. I almost put the wrong website on some pens I was making. Like, it would be like an order of 100 pens for Mark to go hand out, and I almost put just free. I put freeian.org, and I was just like sitting there right before hitting like order, and I was like, I think I'm gonna look at it one more time. I was like, holy crap! Like, just my own brain, like, it finally clicked. You know what I mean? Oh my god. Anyways, that was horrible.
Yeah, like something was off.
Yeah,
like, something's wrong.
I want to make sure. Yeah, it was horrible. Anyways, but it worked out. I didn't order the wrong ones. But if I had a Ridley jingle? Yeah, before then I wouldn't have forgotten. Are you still there?
Anyway, yes, I had. I'm happy to tell you about another name that I can add to the shockingly short list of people who are working to solve the AI alignment problem without using a government.
Okay, who's that?
So, by way of background, AI alignment is the question of whether AI basically it's going to kill us all or be nice to us all once it becomes super intelligent. And one of the people who I recently discovered is working on this is actually Vitalik Buterin, and he's got a thing. I guess he started working on this in 2023, a concept he calls DAC. And
is he the guy from Ethereum? Vitalik?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the founder of Ethereum, or at least the co-founder. D/ACC is how you spell it. So basically, it's a little bit hard to define it, but it's better to give you an example of it in practice. So he would say an example of DAC in practice is sort of like it's designed to combine defense and safety and decentralization and democratic behavior, put all those things together, and you get more safety and progress out of technology, at least in theory. So an example of this would be, he says, like if you take instead of making everybody wear a mask, you build an air filter that's capable of detecting COVID in the air, and it just beeps when it hears an unsafe environment. And that results in a situation where people aren't having their rights violated, they're not being forced to do a bunch of things. There's just this thing that you can put in a room. Does that make sense?
Yep. So would this just apply to one AI?
That he would apply this concept to artificial intelligence. And so instead of censoring everybody or forcing everybody to buy a certain type of computer or something like that, you just have something out there, some program or procedure out there that catches harmful artificial intelligence. That would be my guess.
But across multiple artificial intelligences, or would this only be like only one that he owned or something like that he'd have the ability to catch it? Because otherwise it's like you can't read other people's private AI conversations, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know how it would work with AI. I couldn't find any. And I listened to him talk about this for maybe 90 minutes in context, and I did a bunch of searching on the internet. It was all I could do just to find an example, and actually the example came from his speech. But when I asked Leo, which is Brave Browser's AI, they gave me this definition, which I think is pretty simple, even if I can't say for sure if it's correct, because it's just coming from a primitive AI. But basically, quote, it stands for, quote, defensive decentralization, democracy, and differential acceleration, serving as a techno-optimist framework that balances technological progress with safety and human agency, unquote.
Well, I wish him the best of luck with it. Sounds like it could be a good thing, like at the very least, like instead of, it sounds like you gave a good example with the mask. It's like more human freedom, but us being able to monitor these things for their ethics.
Yeah, and another example he gives this is an example that Leo gives, which is more simple and easy to understand. Quote, community notes to combat misinformation and prediction markets, unquote. That's like a better way to deal with misinformation than censorship.
Yep.
So just take that concept and apply it to AI. I don't know how Vitalik is doing that.
That makes sense with like even just like Twitter. It's like instead of Twitter taking down posts that they say are misinformation, it'll be up for like a few hours before you get a community note on it saying like this is actually not true and here's why. And it's like the whole entire website gets to vote kind of or like respond. It says, did you find this helpful? Yes or no? Why? What did it list? Important relevant sources? Was it relevant at all? Stuff like that. So you get to like, not only do you get this community note that goes up, it gets to be voted on whether or not the community note itself is true. And so far, I haven't seen anything that's like, oh my god, this is egregious, this is wrong. You know, you see what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Sounds like a good thing. So it's interesting. It's Vitalik. I don't know how to say his last name.
Buterin.
Yeah. So, I mean, I find that interesting.
Yep.
You have
That is
anything?
all I have.
Well, thank you for the call, Dave Ridley. And that's RidleyReport.com for more of him.
Yeah, I like the community notes aspect. Instead of just like a misinformation label or like a warning label at the bottom, it's like a community note.
Yep.
And I think those are almost more engaging because it's like you get the crowd to boo back.
That's actually a really hilarious part on Twitter. It's like somebody posts something that's so ridiculous and annoying and dumb, and then like you'll get to see just a little bit later that somebody puts a community note on it that's like, no, this, and they can be like sassy about it.
Yeah, sassy community notes, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like community note, this guy's dumb and here's why.
Exactly. I agree. I like that. It's much better than just like censorship. So the really big news this week has been all about the Southern Poverty Law Center. Have you guys heard about this?
Yes, it's the funniest thing I've seen in it feels like a Boondocks episode is what it feels like.
Why is that? Because I'm not really that familiar with the show. I've seen clips here and there.
It's just they take I don't know. I don't want to say black culture, but they kind of take like,
you can use the word urban, then you don't get
well, no, it's specifically about like African American kids. Like that's the main point of the show.
Yeah.
It's not a kid show though, and it just kind of like
it's on Adult Swim.
Yeah,
right?
it started as a comic strip out of L.A. and it kind of just is like a satire almost. It's written by a black guy, and he just kind of, blows things out of proportion to where it's like so ridiculous that
It sounds like South Park too. Like
yeah, it's like a black South Park almost.
Yeah, so this could happen in South Park as well.
Yeah.
Basically, the Southern Poverty Law Center, if you've never heard of it, is this law group kind of like the ACLU, right? Just making sure, like, community group me if that's wrong. That's how I've always understood it. But they are very, like, leftist to an extreme, and they have this one weird thing that they've always done. I've always found this weird. I'm not saying I was smart enough to be like, oh, and I think that this is the reason they're doing that. But I always thought it was weird that, for example, they have... I'm not going to give an example of a specific person. Okay, you know what? I'll do Dave Smith. They have a write-up on their site that tells you all about Dave Smith and, like, leads you to his website and stuff. And it just seems like... I'm not saying that he's involved. That is not what I'm saying at all, and I don't think he is. I'm just saying, like, all of their enemies, they write up articles about them online and say that they're, like, anti-Semitic or whatever they want to say that's bad about them. And they put so many details, and you would think if you're, like, a right-winger and you read that, you'd be like, this guy's great. And then it just leads you to their sites. Do you see what I mean? I've always thought that's weird. I've been like, but in my mind, I was just like, well, that's kind of dumb of them, and, like, moved on. See what I mean?
Yeah, the Southern Poverty Law Center is kind of like a place that outlived its effectiveness. And this is the problem with, NGOs generally. So the Southern Poverty Law Center was created to get lawyers together to protect blacks who were having lawfare used against them in the South. And then when that kind of stopped, they didn't have as much to do. And then at some point, they decided to team up against the sovereign citizens with law enforcement, which was very strange, like an interesting little turnabout. Hey, law enforcement, I know you've always hated us, but here, we're trying to protect you from the sovereign citizens who are so much worse. Weird. And then, now apparently they decided to fund racists so that they could have more things to do. Look, see, racists everywhere. You need to give money to the Southern Poverty Law Center to protect you.
Yeah, that's
the business model. And the worst part about it is if you look a little bit deeper, is all these groups that they funded, like half of them are embedded agents anyways. Right? So they're just funding a bunch of 3-letter agency buffoons having coffee every Thursday night and drinking probably too much beer. Instead of, doing their actual jobs.
Yep.
Agents provocateur have long been an issue against those that are sort of in the outgroup, whatever the outgroup is. And, I don't know. Who knows what to believe at this point? That's what gets so weird is that, the outrage machine would have you believe, and I do believe, racism is bad, right? But this outrage machine's like, but it's here and there's lots of it. And now I'm like, oh, now I can't believe anything. I can't believe any racist thing that happens.
Well, I quit believing it when the NASCAR driver, does anybody else remember that? There was like a pull down on a garage door at some NASCAR track, and it just was tied in a loop.
What does that mean? No, I don't know what that means.
Like
it was a noose.
It was a rope on a garage door at a racing facility, and it was tied in a loop, right? And the guy was like, "That's a noose. They tied my garage door as a noose because I'm a black NASCAR driver. Everybody's super racist." And then it turns out that things had that loop tied in it for years. Huh. It wasn't any different, but it was like a huge thing for like months. This guy was very upset, and NASCAR had to post a bunch of apologies and stuff. This is like peak 2021, 2020.
Wow, I never heard about that. And
then it turns out it was just a garage door because they went back to like 2006 or something at some championship picture, and it was like, look, it's the garage door, and it has the same loop tied in it that this guy's been complaining about.
Wow.
Right. And I mean, for people who tie knots tying a noose is an interesting knot to tie. It's not like it means anything.
Well, I don't think it was a full noose. I think it was like noose adjacent because it didn't slide tighten. I think it just was a loop tied in a rope, like for a handle, like to grab.
It's got a big kind of noosey knot around the top. I mean, if you want, that's the thing is that you see what you want to see, right? Like you and I see.
Well, I saw a noose at first. I was like, that's crazy. And then I saw the picture again and I was like, oh, well then maybe all this other racist stuff. Who's that other guy that paid 2 Nigerians to beat the crap out of him in Chicago and say, this is MAGA country? Jussie Smollett.
Yeah.
Smollier or whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, that's fabricated.
Yeah. That so many people called that as fabricated at the time and then it ended up being proven fabricated. The thing about it is, they were profiting, or maybe more just money laundering. Well, they were profiting, and then they had to launder the profits, allegedly, according to the feds. The Southern Poverty Law Center was laundering money because basically they would have to hide who they were in order to pay these people for being racist, including one person that was alleged to have been in charge of the transporting of Nazis to Virginia and D.C. in 2016 or 17, whichever, for Unite the Right, the Charlottesville riots.
I think it was 16.
Yeah. So somebody was in charge of apparently transporting other Nazis there, and they were getting paid by the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and but they couldn't that couldn't come out, so they had to use these other entities and other names to pay these people. And I think that that's where the laundering part comes in. But they were also profiting off it because it's like Mark said, you have to create the online Nazis in order to be able to fight them, to get donations, to be able to show you're doing something by fighting the racists that you created.
Yeah.
Right. What other reason would they possibly have of funding the transportation of neo-Nazis to a white power rally?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just what the U.S. government does in everywhere else in the world.
That's exactly what I tweeted. That I was like, you know what? It seems like the federal government is prosecuting the Southern Poverty Law Center for something they already do, which is infiltrate or at least pay informants. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, and pay people to transport people across state lines to carry out certain actions to make sure that the stage looks good for them to invade certain countries, right? What are we doing right now? Dropping billions of dollars in technology and bombs on a sovereign nation in the Middle East right now, off of a bunch of stuff that was probably fabricated.
Trump did take credit for funding if not funding, but helping in some way the protests that were going over there against their government before it all started, which is classic, make sure that they're divided before the war starts.
No, exactly. And when they retaliate against their protesters, you get clicks and pictures and justification to drop even more bombs. It's the cycle. It never changes.
Yep. It sounds like, if anything, the SPLC was inspired by the federal government. More Free Talk Live coming up. 603-283-6160 is the phone number for you to call to bring up whatever's on your mind. That's 603-283-6160. And more Free Talk Live coming up.
Thank you for great money-saving ideas. I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. Among recent suggestions submitted to the blog, double-check your checking and bank accounts for those trial subscriptions and memberships that have become permanent if you don't cancel them, which many, possibly most, don't or forget to. You may not have noticed small automatic payments. 2 energy-saving tips for the kitchen. If you cover and wrap foods in the fridge, you will prevent moisture from escaping and ask less of the compressor. Use plastic wrap, not aluminum foil. And you should only run the dishwasher when it's full. Several who posted are selling their gently used clothing online at Poshmark or Depop, DEPOP.com. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks on the blog at andyoucanquoteme.com.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. President Trump says he's under no pressure to end the war with Iran and that he doesn't want to rush peace talks. He's also ruled out using a nuclear weapon against Tehran, describing the idea as stupid. The US and Iran remain in a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent Biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. That means that you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. Forkfest 2026 is coming up. And please pay attention to this info as it could have changed since you heard about it last, because Forkfest, there were a lot of changes the last couple months. June 22nd to the 29th at the Northern Waters Outfitters Campground in Errol, New Hampshire. The owner has offered to host 100 campers at his campground, which is being closed just for Forkfest. Anyone else who'd like to stay in the surrounding area may come for a day pass for free. The only real restriction he's given us for the event is no nudism, which I think we can deal with after all the crazy restrictions from Rogers in the years before, which is the other old campground. Forkfest.party, that's fork with an F-O-R-K. Forkfest.party for more info, and forkfest2026@gmail.com to sign up as one of the 100 campers. There's about 50 spots left out of 100, and it's $10 per person per night, which is a discount from their typical rates. It's going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of Free Talk Live hosts will be there at Forkfest this year, considering Porkfest is not happening in reality this year. With you on Free Talk Live today, you've got me, Bonnie,
Angelo,
Win,
and Mark Edge.
And we do have a caller on the line, so I'm going to go to the caller. I am not sure if this is Skeeter, but unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Oh, who's the new girl?
Win.
Can I introduce myself? Win?
Yes, you can introduce yourself.
Like Win?
Yep.
My name is Lil Skeet, but the ladies call me Sweet Meat Skeet.
Oh my God, I've never heard that one. You never said that one before.
Bonnie's internet boyfriend.
That's not true.
But guess what? Win? Good news. I'm polyamorous.
Oh my God, stop. Okay, do you have something? Do you have anything you actually want to talk about other than being creepy?
I want to talk about, in Ancapistan, right? Who provides property defense? Let's say for any of your property, your home, your land, your car. Because I don't see it.
Individuals.
What do you mean? I don't see it.
Either people who own the property or people that the property owners pay to defend the said property.
Yeah, but they're not. It doesn't seem like they're able to pay to defend their property, especially if someone's willing to outbid.
Who are you talking about? Because Ancapistan isn't a real place, so they aren't willing or able to. Like, who isn't able?
The current property owner. Like,
where?
He's only willing and able to pay a certain amount, right? So what if someone comes along willing to pay more for your property? Let's say your house.
You're asking basically two different questions. You're talking about like a whole society saying, yes, this is fine. We're going to allow somebody to buy somebody's house up from under them who isn't selling it. That's a different question than who will protect the property, like the homeowner and anybody paid to protect the property. That answers the question in this hypothetical place.
Peter, isn't that what kind of happens now? I mean, like if a big corporation wants to dump some stuff upriver from you, I mean, they just do it, right? And they can pay off their corporate masters, right?
Oh, yeah. With privacy, they can do that, but they can't buy your property without your permission because the government protects it.
Oh, they just devalue your property and use it for what they want to use it for.
Or they just use the government to just buy your property like they do, whatever it's called, civil asset.
This is really all illegal.
Isn't that what happened to Pfizer in
the little pink
the
house?
Pfizer Corporation worked with...
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just telling you. Well, why don't I go ahead and tell you? 20 years ago, the Pfizer Corporation, took down a whole neighborhood in New London, Connecticut. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And because of the eminent domain clause in the United States Constitution, instead, the Supreme Court reinterpreted it from public use to public good. And since they decided that the taxes that Pfizer would pay would be good, they went ahead and tore down a whole neighborhood and gave it to them. So what you're talking about happens now. I don't know about this imaginary place.
You're talking about eminent domain. Is this a case of eminent domain?
Yes.
Well, that's the rare exception, not the rule, Mark. We know I don't have to worry about Jeff Bezos coming with his Amazon private army to take my house, right? And that's because the government protects my Lockean property rights.
That's not true. If Jeff Bezos wanted to do that, then the government would help him do it. So you just don't actually know what you're talking about. And it's like, that's the exception, not the rule. What are we talking about?
Bezos doesn't want your property. He wants you right where you are so you can buy Amazon stuff.
But like, let's say Bezos wanted to build a data center or something, and he wanted it where Skeeter's mom lives because he lives in his mom's basement. Then the government would help Jeff Bezos if he just said, this is good for the community, here's why, and also here's some money. Okay, yeah, you see what I'm saying? Like, that's how that works. So it's like, what do you mean that's the exception, not the rule? Or what are we talking about? All housing sales in the entire country? Like, obviously, those are two separate things. And just pretending that doesn't already happen in today's society is silly. But the reason it happens is because there is a monopoly on force that keeps regular people outside of being able to protect themselves from things. Like the lady who owned the little pink house. People went there and protested and whatnot, but the house is still stolen from her. But if the people who protect people in society worked for her instead of the government, it would have turned out differently. And if she was allowed to actually protect her own property without being just put in jail, for real, I mean, she lived in Connecticut, let's just say that, then it probably would have turned out differently.
Right, it's Kilo versus the city of New London. It happened in 2002. The case was brought, and in 2005, it was decided by the Supreme Court in favor of New London, Connecticut, that they could take this entire neighborhood, buy it up, tear it down, and put up a housing, or put up office buildings for the Pfizer Corporation, who, scant years later, just decided to leave.
Yeah, they actually didn't end up using the place that they built there.
Yeah,
they abandoned the warehouse or whatever it was.
So did the government? So the government eminent domained that, right? So then they gave them pennies on the dollar for what that property was worth.
Yeah,
it's
like
hard
on the market.
To know exactly. I don't want to make a judgment statement what those houses were worth, but the point is that they had to sell. And it's one thing if you consider, I get where the founders were coming from. I don't agree with it, but I get it. And when they're saying for public use, we're going to put through an interstate here, and 70,000 people a day are going to drive back and forth over this spot that somebody's old house is on. I get the point, but in this case, it was for public use. For public good. It wasn't for public use. So meaning that the city fathers of New London, Connecticut said, hey, we'd get better taxes from this plot of land if we just tore down this old, I think it's Fort Trumbull neighborhood is what it was called. And some of the people sold and they were happy to sell. Some of the people sold and they didn't want to sell. And some of the people didn't want to go. This Suzette Kilo was one of them. Maybe she wanted a higher price. I don't know what her deal was precisely, but I know she was forced into a sale.
Yeah, it's like whatever the value was of the house, the government got to decide that, and then the woman has to sell it. It's not like there's any back and forth. Like I wanted you to raise the price.
So they don't have to go off of what like the last tax assessment was, or
it probably depends on where you are, and they have some kind of like arbitrary rules they give themselves, but it doesn't really matter because if you just simply don't want to sell the house, like which I think that was actually the case with that woman, she's always was saying like my family owned this house for blah 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 amount of years and I just don't want to sell it. It's my little pink house and it's like my house. She just didn't want to sell it. She didn't want to move. So it's like there is no price that's fair.
I think the horrifying part is the public good. I think is the most. That's the scariest part of the whole thing.
So undefinable.
Well, yeah, it is undefinable because good is subjective. With whoever's making the decision in that point in time.
Yep.
So like some people could say it's good to have a Walmart here, and then maybe a hippie would say it's good to leave it a wetland, and some military person would say it's good to make it a training ground. Like the best use of land is subjective to the person who looks at it.
Yep. It's like when the Democrats say the Democrats for the greater good. It's like, yeah, they can define that however they want.
Well, that's because neither party has anything that recognizable as a principle, right? Like the parties they've held each other's positions throughout the years. Republicans don't believe Republican things, and Democrats don't believe Democrat things. Republicans believe the opposite of what Democrats believe, and Democrats believe the opposite of what Republicans believe, and that's it. The libertarians are the only ones who's, well, what is it? I stand for human freedom, and they may have some issues where they interpret human freedom differently, but at the very least, they've got a principle by which they abide. The rest of them really don't have one.
Yeah, like abortion is one that the libertarians kind of just don't have a one-size-fits-all opinion on. And
right.
The other day I was arguing with this guy about whether or not Christianity made the pagans in Europe better or not, which we don't have to go into the whole thing about it, but I just want to say, he was saying that it's such a big problem that people tens of thousands of years ago would, if their child was born, absolutely incredibly monstrously deformed, that they would leave the child wrapped up in a blanket reverently to die in the woods, because otherwise their societies would collapse. And they didn't have abortion, and they didn't have ultrasounds, or else they would have been able to just be like, all right, let's abort the child that won't thrive now. That would just be a drain on the society. And I was like, I'm happy I'm here today. I'm happy that my, European ancestors were smart enough to do that instead of just well, every single baby must live, and then they die. But anyways, this guy was like saying, well, no, society devolves into chaos if you kill infants. And it's like, they weren't even killing them. They left them to die. So it was like nature taking them back. Nature gave them the monstrous deformed child. Wait, why
what's
did
the
I bring
evidence
this?
that society devolves into chaos if you kill infants?
Well,
I'm
just because
curious. I mean,
he's
if one makes a statement, then one should have something to back it.
You're right. I would love if other people would join in on these conversations with me against the Christians that are trying to take over LPNH on Twitter. But anyways, they're trying to say that Christianity is the only path forward to freedom, and it's really annoying. And it's not all of LPNH. It's like these three guys, but I feel like Jeremy Coffin isn't policing them hard enough. And yeah, but anyways.
Well, Jeremy Coffin isn't in charge of everything that goes on in the LPNH. He just happens to be the chairperson or whatever the situation is.
Yeah, but I feel like somebody needs to whip them into shape. And basically, I've
taken... the funny thing about abortion as a concept is that Republicans want, generally, this is just a generalization. I mean, I realize there's plenty of Republicans who do not care about this issue very much. But, this is a generalization. The pro-lifers tend to vote Republican. And the pro-lifers want everyone to live. The abortion advocates, whatever they are called, pro-choicers, they tend to be in the Democrats. Well, the Democrats get about 7 out of every 8 abortions are given to a Democrat, from what we can tell. If you sort of go through and decide what the political party is of each of these people, you might have to extrapolate a little bit, but somewhere in that neighborhood, 75% or more. So the Republicans are advocating for their enemies to have to keep the children that will grow up and vote, in all likelihood, the same as the enemies. Who does this? Who says you must grow your army? And
I know the answer.
And destroys their army.
The answer
is
Christians, and that's why we have mass migration into Europe and in America, because they're just like suicidal with empathy. That's the answer. That's why I don't think Christianity should be the end all be all to freedom. I even pointed out to this guy that I was arguing with about it. I didn't mean to make this all about this. I just wanted to explain why libertarians aren't just like one way or the other on abortion. It's like, well, if God is giving us these monstrous children with no arms and legs and half a brain or something, then God should take them back. But so I don't think that it's a cut and dry like moral or immoral thing. But I think you're right that Democrats are more likely to do it because I think that they do it for more immoral reasons. Like, I just want to go around and have sex and not think about the consequences. Dang it, I got pregnant and I'm going to go kill a baby. That's, like, indefensible in my opinion. The other thing is, like, in today's society, luckily, we have scientific, advancements to where it's like, now, if a child is born with even something like Down syndrome, which is pretty bad compared to the things that, like, our ancestors would have gotten, left kids to exposure for, now we can actually let a child with Down syndrome stay alive and actually do well and thrive. So it's not like it's like always necessary as often as it was before, thanks to science, not thanks to God. And also, I think that the Democrats, I think that's like a little horrible to say that you should let Democrats die more, but at the same time it is like, I think that people need to focus more on their own smaller groups than like the entire, like all states. It's like, why do I care how many how many people are doing whatever medical procedure in California as much as like just focusing on New Hampshire? That's what kind of changed my perspective on so many things in the last little while. It's like, if something like really horrible is happening in another part of the world, I can just be like, oh, well, that doesn't happen in New Hampshire, so I'm not going to stress about it. And it's like my whole life is better.
Yeah, it's absolutely true about New Hampshire is that you can always say, let the savages deal with the I mean, it's the truth. I mean, this is what it's like out there on the other side of New Hampshire. New Hampshire is like #1 in safety and quality of life. And, you just put all these factors together and you're like, what are you people doing out there on the other side? But I mean, when it comes to this particular issue of abortion, I mean, I see both sides of it. On one hand, when I held young Jack in my hands those many long years ago, that first time I said, I will do anything to protect this young life. Like something chemical kicked in my brain and it happened fast. But at the same time, I know what it takes to make criminals. I know what it takes to make bad people. And somebody, a mother who wants to abort a child that's the definition of an unwanted child, right? Is the world going to be better just filled with these unwanted children? And look, I'm adopted. I know that adopted families want kids and stuff, but adopted kids also have all kinds of problems. And I'm not advocating one way or the other. All I'm saying is, if a woman wants to kill her child, we probably should just let her go ahead and do that.
Dang. Savage. I forgot Ian doesn't allow us to talk about abortion on the air.
He just says it's talk radio hell, but we're not on talk radio anymore.
Yes,
Talk
we
Live
are.
doesn't have nearly as many radio stations as we used to have.
Yeah, not nearly as many. We haven't gotten a caller calling in mad about me saying something about Christians or us talking about abortion at all, so that's a good point. We're on a lot fewer radio stations nowadays, but I think Riley has identified like 8 across the states. And then there was one that was messaging me from Tennessee that's not accounted for on Twitter the other day. So I think there's some we don't know about, but it definitely has been, it's gone down, the numbers have gone down since, what was it? Genesis Communications went out of business. Yeah. And now we're self-syndicated. But if you're somehow listening and you want a station near you to take us, you can go to freetalklive.com and there's the information there to get them to take us since we're self-syndicated. Anyways, we were talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center in the last segment before I changed the subject to abortion. I think it's because we were talking about Democrats and Republicans not being actually based on any principles, and the Libertarians are.
Well, that's because the political parties in the United States, well, I think just in general, they're almost kind of like made up to begin with. Like, they're just labels. It's like red or blue. And those weren't like set in stone. Like, Abraham Lincoln was the first Republican and they got rid of slavery, and like, what's your next platform?
He was the first? Like,
yeah, I think he was the first Republican. And that was like a whole new party they'd come up with. And I think that was to go against the Know-Nothings. There's some 1800 stuff there that I'm not quite sure about, but
the Whigs these are kind of powered down. They didn't, they became regional. The Whig Party did, and then the Democratic Republicans split. And you're right, the Know-Nothings are thrown in there somewhere, and I couldn't tell you precisely.
Yeah, but he's like Abraham Lincoln's the first Republican Party president that was ever elected.
That's correct.
Wow.
And so it's like, how does an 1865 platform, I guess 1860 platform, reflect a 2026 reality, right? It just can't, because the Republican thing is just a label. It's ambiguous. What does it mean to be Republican? Well, whatever the head of the party says it means to be Republican, right? And that changes. Again, it's subjective. That changes person to person. Like, Republican didn't exist to begin with, right? It was just a label for this set of ideas at this point in time.
It seems like before, like, the Libertarian Party, a lot of parties were just based on some, like, very specific to their time issues going on at that time. Like, I just looked up the Know Nothing Party to get a definition. It says, the Know Nothing Party, officially the American Party, was a mid-1850s political movement driven by nativism. Okay, that's kind of like a principle that could go on through time. It's like OG
MAGA. It sounds...
Well, the other ones are not exactly, like, timeless. It's like anti-Catholic sentiment, opposition to immigration, particularly from Ireland and Germany. And they originated from secret societies like the Order of the Star-Spangled Banner. This is all new to me. That's why it's kind of like...
they're called the Know-Nothings because they'd be like, well, what do you stand for? And they just go, I know nothing. Because they were so radical that they didn't want to get ousted. So it's like you kind of like had to know.
So it's just like that couldn't exist for 100 years. Like, we just don't like Catholics, and we don't want the Irish and German to come here. Like, you see what I mean? Like, that's just like so short-sighted, and it feels like most parties are that. So to continue themselves on, they just have to keep changing their platforms, which is exactly what we've
to keep getting money. They have to create their problems to justify you donating to the national committee, right? Look at all these. They bomb boomers emails, 50 emails a day. The RNC's asking you to stand with Trump and send us $5. Look at all these terrible things that the Democrats have been doing, and you look inside and it's just the same thing that George Bush did in 2002. And you're like, well, okay, and then they send them their $5, and the cycle continues. They have to create their own outrage to justify their own existence.
I think to some extent that the political parties as they exist today, and I blame this firmly on Web 2, on social media, I believe that they've become the new religions, that people adhere more firmly to their the political platform of their party than they do to the belief system of any given church that they might go to. Now, there are certainly people who are more religious than they are political, but at this point, it goes hand in hand.
Yep.
Well, that's because it's identitarian, right? So, I'll just say Christian as an example. If you ask I don't want to say like hardcore Southern, MAGA type Christians are different, but like a Christian's supposed to say like, well, who are you? And supposedly the first thing a Christian's supposed to say, let's say a Muslim dude, right? Let's change the person, but like the first thing for him is he's a Muslim man, right? That's an identity that he clings to. So if we take away that Muslim portion of his identity, and then you just insert Democrat, that's what gives him meaning. He's a Democrat man now. He has no religion. You eradicate the religion from the individual, they're going to find something else to cling to with religious fervor, and that just happens to be their political identity.
Yeah, when the Middle Eastern countries got broken up by race because of like lots of different wars and stuff like that, and certain countries wanted to, I can't think of like which one exactly. Like I know Persia was made up of multiple different people. That's because the Muslims got there. So I think it was other countries. I just know that Islam was really, really good for them, keeping states being grouped together by something, because they were like a whole bunch of different groups that wouldn't have come together with anything, and Islam like was the glue that held them together, and it was like really successful at that. I don't know if it's like the most successful, but
that's
seems
exactly.
Like
it's an identity that can that transcends your tribe, your race, your I guess location almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like so if you
have like a he/him badge on your shirt and you go into a new state, like the other Democrats see you and they know you're a Democrat too, and you have your blue hair signal.
Yeah, there's like something that connects you
say, hey,
outside
comrade.
of,
Yep. More Free Talk Live coming up, 603-283-6160. Lots of interesting stuff in the news, like psychedelics and the Southern Poverty Law Center, I guess you'd say scandal. More Free Talk Live coming up. Call in with whatever is on your mind.
Some of you have wanted to support Free Talk Live's mission on a monthly basis, but don't want to support Patreon. Now we have an alternative that also helps our premier streaming platform, Odyssey. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join at the top of the channel. You can subscribe for $5 per month, and unlike other subscription services, Odyssey adds their processing fee on top, so it'll cost a little over $5 per month, but Free Talk Live will receive the entire amount you pledged. Higher donation tiers are available if you're feeling so inspired. You'll get a special membership badge that's visible in the Odyssey chat room, and if we get enough supporters, we may enable members-only chat. This new subscription method is a great way to decentralize our direct listener support away from just Patreon and also support a libertarian-run business, Odyssey. Please visit video.freetalklive.com and click join to subscribe to our Odyssey channel and help support spreading our message around the planet. Visit video.freetalklive.com and click join today.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. President Trump says he's under no pressure to end the war with Iran and that he doesn't want to rush peace talks. He's also ruled out using a nuclear weapon against Tehran, describing the idea as stupid. The US and Iran remain in a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah, but at least a 3-week extension of the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Questions, of course, will abound about whether Hezbollah is going to honour that ceasefire because they're not party to these talks.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. It's one of a number of options apparently being examined to punish NATO members for failing to support the Iran war. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation. Suspending difficult countries from important or prestigious positions at NATO is also another option apparently being looked at by the US. President Trump has repeatedly threatened to leave NATO, but the unnamed official said the Pentagon email made no reference to that. John Beaver reporting.
India and the United Kingdom are looking to deepen strategic cooperation after high-level talks between India's National Security Advisor and his British counterpart, Jonathan Powell. The discussions focused on security, technology and global geopolitical coordination. Ishan Garg reports from New Delhi.
India and the UK are stepping up engagement across defence, intelligence and emerging technologies. Officials say the talks between India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his counterpart covered counter-terror cooperation, Indo-Pacific security and supply chain resilience. Both sides also explored collaboration in critical technologies including artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The dialogue comes as New Delhi and London push to strengthen ties after finalising a free trade agreement. Analysts say growing convergence reflects shared concerns over global instability and the need for trusted, strategic partnerships. Ishan Garg, New Delhi.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent Biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease. It's only meant to be sold and accessed by verified research institutions, and it's thought thought these datasets came from places that had legitimately purchased the databases before someone illegally put them online to be sold. Those organizations have had their access to buyer bank information revoked, according to the government, which thanked China and e-commerce platform Alibaba for their help removing the listings before any purchases were made. Stuart Smith, London.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
Now, a lot of little girls do ballet even though their fathers couldn't care less and don't see what the big deal is. But one talented little prodigy actually choreographed a whole ballet that her father could enjoy and even look forward to. Let's meet Erin Kemper and her father, Jack.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Erin, how did you do that?
I thought about all the things that my dad likes to watch and put it into a ballet.
Well, we have a special treat for you today because Erin is now going to perform her new ballet. When I pay the bills, I get to make the rules.
We can't afford that. World War II. I miss your mother too, but we're gonna have to do the best without her. Go Redskins!
Bravo! Well done. Boy, I wish she were mine. You know, my two girls are grown up, but you still couldn't pay me to watch one of their a cappella shows. What inspired you to create this amazing ballet?
I'm really inspired by the theme of my dad paying any attention to me at all.
Now, at the end, I hear she just put the game up on the big screen.
I don't know where she gets it.
This is the Onion News Network.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control, and that means that you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 to get in on the conversation with us and bring up whatever's on your mind. You can change the subject. You can tell us we're wrong. It's up to you. Free Talk Live is brought to you by LibertyMinded.com. Official Free Talk Live gear like t-shirts and hoodies are available at LibertyMinded.com. Plus, you'll find a unique collection of cool and funny Liberty-oriented clothing at LibertyMinded.com. That's LibertyMinded.com. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Angelo.
Win.
And Mark Edge.
And everything still sounds good. We're streaming on X tonight at the at Free Talk Live account. And it's been going really well on there. And in fact, the account has been doing really well in general recently because we have a social media manager who's awesome. I'd like to give him a call out. I just don't know if he wants that. I never even thought about that.
Well, he's called in, hasn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if he said. Were you on?
Yeah, I was on. He's a super cool guy, super nice dude. I don't remember his name. It's been a couple months.
His name is Dylan Allman, and he's on Twitter, and he's like a really big Twitter account. So there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I just said it. He's awesome.
All right. Yeah, he's a super great guy. You interact him. I think you probably interact with him the most.
Yeah, it's like if we just hired some random normie who wasn't aligned with us, I don't think he'd be doing half as well because he's already extremely principled, super well spoken, and he's just awesome. So,
yeah, Dylan's really good at this.
Yes, and he's just really good at just being a social media
manager.
Manager, yes, that's the word. So in the last segment, we were kind of hinting at this article from The Intercept. I think Ian might have sent me one too from the Wall Street Journal. Ian's been listening to the radio and stuff like that and saying stuff about this Southern Poverty Law Center situation. And it is really crazy what they've been alleged of. Just because I feel like it's stuff that people assume is happening, but now we have proof. So let's see. This from TheIntercept.com. We knew they were paying informants. SPLC, which is the Southern Poverty Law Center, donors reject Trump DOJ fraud claims. And it says 20 donors to the Southern Poverty Law Center said the alleged fraud being prosecuted in their name was exactly how they hoped the group would spend their money. And to me, that was really shocking. Because it's just what's being called fraud and fraudulently spent funds, that donors themselves are saying, well, that's what we wanted anyway. Isn't that?
I mean, I don't know. Look, the Southern Poverty Law Center can do what it wants with its money. if it wants to give racists ride to racists rallies, it seems really disingenuous to me. But I've never given one penny to the Southern Poverty Law Center.
I never would.
I talked to their president one time, and he and I got in basically a shouting match.
Whoa.
And I just, I just got nothing to do with these people. And, but I mean, if their donors are happy, I don't see why the federal government would come in and say there's fraud going on,
because they didn't get their slice of the pie. It's the whole thing is taxes, man.
But
if they would have got their money, nobody would have cared.
Just listen to this little list on this poster board next to Kash Patel of what is being alleged. And before we go to the phones, because we do have Turd Ferguson online, I'm going to go to him really quickly, but I just want to read this really fast. This is what is being alleged, and this is what these 20 donors are saying. Yeah, that's what we wanted. $1 million to the National Alliance affiliate. I don't know what that is. $300K to the Aryan Nations affiliate. $270K to Unite the Right member. That's one person. That was the person being alleged to have been transporting the neo-Nazis. $140K to former National Alliance chairman. I'm not sure what National Alliance is, like I said. $73K to former KKK members, and $19K to American Front president and felon. Yeah, I think that's kind of like a Proud Boy movement. But that's what the donors are saying. That's what we wanted our money spent on. That's crazy. We do have Turd Ferguson in Pennsylvania on the line from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, the Commonwealth.
What's on your mind, Turd?
Well, I don't know. I've had a pretty nasty last couple of days, that's for sure. But luckily, I was in my car yesterday. I was driving to my appointment, and Chapel Road's Pink Pony Club came on the radio, and FM 97 here, which is a great song, dude.
Oh, I thought you were going to say it caused you to have a bad day, because I just hate her. I hate her too much to like her music, even good,
Who is this?
good songs.
Chapel Roan? She's the it girl right now. Just one of the.
I reject that claim.
I think she's the internet disagrees.
The internet disagrees on her. They were canceling her last month.
They're mad at her for being mean to a little girl.
And also for being raised by a Republican congressman in Missouri, right? Where she grew up, and hiding that she was extremely wealthy. And she's in all these interviews saying, "I grew up really poor," and it's just like no one ever
just
believed
finding
that.
out she's an industry plant.
Exactly.
It'll blow over.
She's an industry plant.
But she's
horrible. She's ugly.
She was the it girl until I guess a month ago. Maybe Bonnie's more plugged into the internet than I am.
I agree that people like her. I don't like her.
Again?
Chapel Roan. CHAPPELL. It looks like Chappelle. I used to call her Chappelle Roan, like Dave Chappelle, but I guess it's Chapel. And ROAN, like a horse.
Mark is gonna look her up and be like, "She's not ugly, Bonnie." Well, I'm just saying that because she's a pop star and she should be really pretty. She's wearing a lot of
makeup in the pictures that I see.
Yeah,
that's her thing. She does drag.
Yeah, she does. Woman that does drag.
She does a woman that does drag.
When she takes off all that ridiculous makeup, she's pretty good looking. But I especially like her taste in dresses that she goes to the Grammys in. I think they're quite unique, to put it mildly.
Okay, is that what you wanted to call about?
Well, no. Have you heard the AI version? They have an AI version of Pink Pony Club sang by Plankton.
No.
And I think it's better than the original, actually.
Oh my god.
I don't know about that.
It would sound almost like Turd singing it. It sounds like a 40-year-old man singing it, and I think it makes it a better song.
Plankton, I believe, is a 40-year-old man, probably in real life. But the reason why I was calling, though, is because abortion is not even really worth talking about unless you're a Democrat, because that's all they got. As Cody O'Connor, who is basically the greatest radio personality of all time, has put it several times, anybody can have an opinion on abortion. It doesn't take really any brain power to actually have an opinion on that, which is why the Democrats talk about it. They can't talk about economics, that's for sure, because they don't know anything about the subject.
Okay, but why are you calling to say this after I brought it up for the first time in like 5 years? Like I don't really bring up abortion all the time. It's not like it's like clearly you have nothing else to talk about.
I'm just saying that the concept of abortion is Democrat. I'm just pointing out that it's a Democrat issue. it's not even really a political issue, but the Democrats want it to be a political issue.
It's kind of a
because that's all
political
they can
issue
really
for
talk
Republicans. I mean, I just don't think that you're being fair to the political spectrum when you say Republicans don't care about abortion.
Well, I think they care about it, but they don't really talk about it that much.
I think new gen Republicans don't. I think people 40 and under really don't.
Yeah, but new gen Republicans are certainly smarter than the old. I mean, the new right is definitely much smarter, if you've heard them talk, than the old right. As a matter of fact, the old right was probably less smart than the left used to be. Now the new right are all the smart people. And then, of course, libertarians are generally pretty smart in my experience, although I think from time to time, I might not even agree with that statement that I just said myself. But I think Cody O'Connor is correct when he said on his radio show that anybody can have an opinion on abortion. It doesn't really take.
Is Cody still around? I haven't heard from him in years.
Cody did his show for a little while, and he was broadcasting it on my radio network in the early 20s. I really miss Cody. Dude, he's probably the greatest radio host of all time.
How could you say that when Mark Edge is on the show tonight?
I'm glad you have a favorite.
Well, look, I like Mark Edge. By the way, is that Mark's girlfriend, who I guess is sitting across from you, Bonnie, at the table?
What?
She looks significantly younger than him.
No.
And pretty based Mark Edge, as I always say.
Don't be creepy. That's so creepy.
Wynn's dad would shoot me.
I've known Mark since I was like 6. That's weird.
I have to mute Turd because he's going to say something way creepier now that you said that. Thanks for the call, Turd.
Yeah, it's going to stay creepy.
Yeah, I was going to stay creepy.
I have a picture of Wynn holding my son's hand.
Oh, when he was like a baby?
Well, they were both about the same age.
Oh, I didn't think about that. So we have another caller on the line. Sarah in New Mexico, you're on Free Talk Live. And what's on your mind?
Oh, did I tell you that?
Hey, Sarah, wait. I'm sorry. It's like it sounded like this really the last few times you've called, but it's like really messed up. The sound of your voice sounds really kind of like loud and distorted. Are we on speaker, or is there like? Can you go by a window?
Okay, I got off speaker. How am I doing now?
Let's just
a little better.
Yeah, let's just keep going. I can't really tell yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got off speakers. Sometimes I don't get off speakers, but anyways, so you know that we're no longer number one, the number one in pedestrian fatality. We actually killed 7 less people.
You killed 7 less people. That's great, Sarah.
So who's number one now?
I have no idea. I can't believe it. There's 4 other states that's worse than us. I mean, like,
so it's not even just a number 2 spot. You guys have really fallen down the rankings.
Yeah, we dropped to like the 5th worst pedestrian fatality. I'm like, whoa. So it's a.
Oh, didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm looking at it right now. I can't find where you.
We being New Mexico.
Where did you find these new?
The ranking.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think somebody heard it real quick on the rankings. It was announced a while ago. So there's 7 less pedestrian. You average it out to 100,000 people. It used to be 3 pedestrians for every 100,000. Now that makes it like 2.5 or something, and that drops the ranking. It's per capita.
Okay. Well, thanks for the call, Sarah. Unfortunately, the phone, something going on with your phone is just making it really hard to keep you on the air, or else I'd keep you on longer.
It's the Obama phone.
Yeah, exactly. The Obama phone is distorting your audio. We have Ricky from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania on there with us. Ricky, what's on your mind?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
And some new faces, too, I might add.
Yep, we have Wynn here, who's never been on before, and then Angelo. I feel like you might have not.
Yeah, I know Angelo.
Okay.
I got everybody else. Well, first off, before I get into my topic, I did want to apologize for the interruption last week. That was unexpected.
Yep. Nope, not a problem at all.
Okay. No, it's interesting. I know you don't talk about it much, so I'm going to comment on it while I can, and that's the whole abortion debate. And the way I see it, guys, is, here's the problem with the whole thing. And this is from the time before Roe versus Wade got thrown in the garbage, The pro-lifers, they make it an all or nothing debate. Now, me, myself, I believe in term limits. But see, they make it an all or nothing debate. And
so if a baby's in the stomach for more than 9 months, they've got to get out?
Babies aren't in the stomach.
So if babies are in the abdomen for more than 9 months, they have to get out? Is this a term limit for the babies?
Term limit?
No. I mean term limits for abortion. Like you can only have an abortion for so long and you got to have the kid. And I believe in that,
What limit would you set?
Huh?
What limit would you set? Would you do like 6 months? Shorter, longer?
I would probably say second trimester, but also, here's the thing. This is the big problem. What you end up having with the pro-lifers of the all or nothing debate is like they have in Texas, where there's no exception for medical emergency.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous because babies screw up all the time.
Yep. I agree with you.
And that's a big problem. And anybody... Because I remember Obama himself said in the debate with John McCain, and he wiped the floor with him because he brought up the coat hangers and all that stuff. But the thing is, he brought up the point that there's no exception for medical emergency in these guys' point of view. A life is always a life. And that's ridiculous. We know that babies screw up and you have to do something.
What do you
these
mean
babies are screwing
up?
They screw up by not getting into the uterus and being in the fallopian tube. That's a big danger to the mom.
Tubal pregnancy, yep.
They screw up by
Imagine being the dad. Imagine being the dad while this is going on. I couldn't even imagine a situation like that.
Woman dying, man can't imagine being the dad.
An abortion to save my wife's life so she can have other children, and the baby's a goner.
Yep. I mean, like, the baby...
It wasn't viable to begin with in a tube pregnancy. It's not...
In a lot of cases. Like, yeah, it's just like... For me, it's just like forgetting medical emergency. It's like the coat hanger thing that Obama brought up is just the fact that when you make something illegal, it doesn't stop the thing. It makes people have to go underground, and when things go underground, they become less safe. So
yeah, well, that's why it's a Democrat talking point, but then they don't use the same thing when they talk about guns or drugs.
Yeah, but like talking point or not, all those things are true about or it's true about all of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish there was room for negotiation with these guys, but I've encountered many a pro-lifer in my life, and it's really hopeless. You can give the term limit argument, you can say things. They're really hopeless. They're all the same, where they say a life is always a life. They bring God into this. And that makes it even more complicated as far as I'm concerned when they do that. Their argument.
I agree.
Because the baby's not going to live. There's no way, So how can you bring God into this?
Even if the baby was going to live, it's like if a woman wants to choose to end the pregnancy that could kill her or is very likely to kill her, it's like one person has to die, and it's okay for a family to choose for the person who can make a new baby live.
Well, because of the all or nothing argument, I take this stance, and you have to, because of the argument, that I believe in pro-choice all the way, because they believe in pro-life all the way. It's a damn shame. You can't negotiate with these people.
Well, I would say that there's nuance within this issue. I mean, people call in and they give their opinion all the time. Some people will say, look, abortion should be illegal, except in the cases of rape and incest and when the mother's life is in danger. And they'll say things like that. So there are people who have the opinion that, that there's some nuance. I think that
but you still have the other part
your
of the
point,
argument,
I would
Mark.
say, is probably the easiest to accept for most people, which is to say that once it's beyond a certain point, then you can't do it anymore. At least that seems to be globally what most countries have decided is acceptable.
I would be fine with that, Mark. That would be fine with that. I think that's acceptable because I personally have a problem with the whole "I had an accident" argument. I find that unacceptable.
Like falling down the stairs?
No, like I accidentally got pregnant.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's not a good argument. Like, oh, I wanted to have sex, but I didn't want the possibility of a baby, so I'm just gonna, go ahead and have an abortion. It's just like I don't think that leads to like good outcomes. Is probably what I would say. Mark thinks it does because fewer Democrats.
That's right. My opinion is that anything, absolutely anything that results in fewer Democrats, I'm for.
Thanks a lot, Mark. I'm a Democrat.
You are the most not Democrat I have ever met. I have heard you.
You know what, Mark? I'm very old fashioned. I'm the Confederate Democrat, so I'm a little.
That's exactly right. You won't go to the Democratic National Convention wearing that Confederate flag on the back of your back.
Richie Rich almost said I was almost a libertarian once.
You are a thinking person, and that makes you not like most Democrats and similar to a lot of libertarians. So it'd be one thing if
I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Bonnie. I am a Democrat. I definitely don't fit with the Republicans' platform. And I'm not quite a libertarian. I think I lean that way a lot of times in a lot of my views. I really do. But it would be, I think, insincere for me to be a libertarian.
Well, I think that it's great that you're able to listen to us and have conversations with us, and that's what Free Talk Live is all about. You have anything else?
I do lean libertarian, but you know what? It's just not, it's not quite right,
Well,
but
wouldn't that just be like classically liberal?
Democrat. Huh?
Wouldn't that just be like classically liberal? In a sense, right? Not libertarian, but like that's kind of how I
guess
see
they say
it.
that, Angelo. That's a term I've heard. Classically liberal. I'm very much a Jeffersonian. I think I'm very old-fashioned, and I think that's where I fit,
Yeah.
So I get along with a lot of people. I do get along. Well, what's interesting about conservatives? I can get along with conservatives. They tend to not get along with me. It's very strange. I don't know what to make out of that.
I feel kind of similar about like Democrats. It's like I feel like I should have more in common with Democrats, but it's in their opinion, it's like it's all or nothing. You have to agree with them 100%. Wynn probably knows a lot about this going to college.
Yeah, that's been my experience as well.
Yep.
We agree on a lot of things, but there's certain things that most liberals can't really look over.
Yep. Like, not going to change their mind on things.
It's like all the things. I mean, what can a liberal look
Ricky.
over?
Nothing, because then you're not part of the Klan, right? It isn't all or nothing. If you don't check all these boxes, then you're not one of us, right? It's because it's conformist. It's I guess like communist. Yeah, it's group thinking, right? It's group think.
And that does lead to them being like really good at organizing, and which is why I'm afraid that they could potentially win in these midterms. More Free Talk Live coming up. You can call in with whatever's on your mind and change the subject, tell us we're wrong. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash. Dash.org.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. President Trump says he's under no pressure to end the war with Iran and that he doesn't want to rush peace talks. He's also ruled out using a nuclear weapon against Tehran, describing the idea as stupid. The US and Iran remain in a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent Biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and that means you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160 to bring up whatever is on your mind. And I'd like to thank Brian for being an amplifier with us here at Free Talk Live. That means that Brian went to amps.freetalklive.com and signed up to support the show. AMPS stands for Advertise, Market, Promote, and Support. AMPS AMPS. Thanks to Brian and everyone who supports us. And again, that's amps.freetalklive.com if you'd like to check out the perks and benefits of becoming an amplifier. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Angelo,
Win,
and Mark Edge.
So one of the things that we definitely needed to talk about tonight is that Trump, he did this with marijuana a few months ago, and it wasn't like super huge news because it almost feels like it's like a nothing burger, but it actually, I don't think it is. So Trump is fast-tracking a review of psychedelic drugs. I feel like this one's getting more attention because Joe Rogan is involved, and because psychedelic drugs are just like more like scandalous and crazy than marijuana, even though some people say marijuana is a psychedelic. But anyways, this from the Wall Street Journal, how Joe Rogan convinced Trump to fast-track review of psychedelic drugs. I wonder if he gave him some.
I don't know if I could see the veteran angle is huge on the reclassification. That's kind of what made a lot of, I guess, like diehard right, like I'm a doobie, the devil's lettuce. I haven't touched nothing like that of the sort. But once you bring in that veteran angle of like, hey, this is helping people who would otherwise, take their own lives without this kind of, help with like the Ibogaine. I think Rick Perry, like the former governor of Texas, has gotten really big into that, and he was like a Texas Republican, and he's totally flipped on, psychedelics, but specifically in medical settings, which, as Schedule I, there's no medicinal use. So if they do come back and look at it again, then, maybe some clinics will get built for veterans. And I think that's what's really pulled in a lot of the Republican side of people to maybe relook at psychedelic use.
Right. If they don't have to just make it legal, which they should, but they, if they rescheduled it, the idea that marijuana, according to the United States federal government, has no medicinal value is clearly and demonstrably false. And there's lots of other types of drugs too. And if they just reclassify them to something less illegal, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, whatever, then they can do research with it. You can prescribe cocaine for things. I'm not saying that it gets done a lot, but it's possible. Cocaine is easier to prescribe than marijuana.
Whoa, I didn't know that. That's crazy.
At the federal level, at least, it's easier to prescribe.
At the federal level, right. The federal level is not enforcing anything as far as marijuana goes in most of these states, wisely. Because I mean, like, you'll suddenly have Democrats going states' rights.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you can pay $100 to a doctor on a video call and get your medical marijuana card in a lot of these states anymore. So, I mean, I don't know how easier it would be to get a cocaine prescription in a state like that.
I'm proud to say I got my medical. Me and Ian both got our medical marijuana cards because we had PTSD from the FBI raid.
Yeah, that's all it takes. It's $100. You're just paying the doctor off for the prescription, essentially.
We have to take a quiz to say.
Yeah, you got to say the right things.
Yeah,
like you can't go in there blind, but everybody knows what you're doing, right? When you
that
go
didn't
in
happen
there.
to me and Ian.
My glaucoma, I need it for my back, and the doctor goes, "Yeah, okay, man, sounds good. Here's your script. Give me my $100."
I mean, that sounds a lot more to me like meth. Okay, I can't remember the whole word for it, so I'm just gonna say Adderall.
Oh, Adderall.
No, it's methamphetamine. Maybe that's the whole word. Because methamphetamine is different. I forget the long term. It doesn't matter. Adderall, other uppers used for ADHD. I feel like lots of people they want a pep in their step, and it's like they want something above caffeine but below cocaine, and they go to the doctor and get that. But then again, I do think a lot of people have something wrong with them. I just don't know if that is the answer. But anyways, how Joe Rogan convinced Trump to fast-track the review of psychedelic drugs. So like I said, like maybe a year ago even, Trump signed an executive order to fast-track the review of marijuana because marijuana was being reviewed to see if it could be on a lower schedule. Basically how these federal scheduled things work is that Schedule 1 is the worst of the worst, really bad drugs that shouldn't be sold at all, have no medicinal use. Something like meth, actual meth, should probably be up there. Not. I don't even mean, like, I actually think all drugs should be legal. I'm just saying, like, if I was a statist, I would think, like, oh, meth should be there, and it is. Then number 2 is like, oh, there's some use, maybe only in like a medical setting, something like that. I don't know all the actual parameters. And then like if it's unscheduled, that means that it's legal federally. And we have a caller on the line, so we'll get back into this, but let's see what's on their mind. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, I just wanted to call in and say that it's good to see the intergalactic space wizard on the show every now and again. It's much appreciated. I've been a long-time listener, and I really enjoyed the show with Mark and Ian and the banter back and forth. But Bonnie, I think you're doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
In Ian's absence. And hopefully with the I do watch Mark's show on Twitter there with Sally Mayweather, and hopefully with the petition, we can get Ian back on the show sooner rather than later. That would be awesome. But in true Skeeterism, that's not why I called in tonight. I was actually going to.
Well, before you go any further, I do want to ask Bonnie a question. Do you have any insight as to when Ian will get out without any intervention with from Trump and that sort of thing? Do you have some idea?
I think it would be early 2028.
2028?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I thought it was sooner than that.
I don't have any
But
other.
sooner's better. Go ahead with your question.
Oh, caller, go ahead with what you were going to ask.
I was actually going to call in about the psilocybin.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like you stole my thunder there. So I'm not sure what else to talk about. Maybe the AI piece. I am a little concerned about the states and the flock cameras, and I know one of your frequent caller from Colorado touches on this with training the AIs, and I just saw a news headline where Google is partnering up with one of the large AI company with 40 billion in investment. And it just seems that they have this market cornered, and I'm just not sure what's going to come of it. I mean, we could go back to the days of the horses and wagon wheels and try to stop it, but that's probably not going to happen. And I think the best we can do is maybe lean towards the open source models. I know I listened to the Aaron Day show, and he speaks a lot about that. And
Venice AI is apparently run by a free stater and is a more freedom-oriented AI.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Palantir, something called Clearview, which does face scraping, which I think is involved in something I've been holding on to an article for a long time, which is basically like every time you go into any kind of a grocery store or anything like that.
Oh yeah, that's horrifying. I've been seeing stuff about this or looking into it. It's starting to register how long you look at an item for like marketing value. And they're starting to build cameras into the shelving too, so they can collect data on what's catching people's eyes as they walk down the aisle. Do they pick up this box? Why did they pick up this box? How long? What facial features did they make when they looked at this box? Is it happiness, disgust, inquisitive thought? So it's not even like just a tracking you thing. It's a hyper corporatist thing, and I think that's almost scarier when they're trying to hack your brain to get you to buy this brand of coffee because it has the right colors that will affect you to get you to buy it.
I think I'm far less worried about corporations, changing the color of coffee packaging in order to get me to buy it than I am of the federal government, just knowing.
Well, they're just going to take all that information in a subpoena anyways. The corporation is going to gather all of that data for you at a hyper level because they're trying to get money out of you, not just punish you. They want to get you to give them money. So they'll build out this data, this person of you that they think is you with the data they've collected on you. And then the government just subpoenas them on the back end, and they'll take all that data anyways.
That's the truth. That's
right. So it doesn't
true.
matter if the government has direct access to it. If the fact that it exists, the government can get their hands on that data if they want it.
The only thing we can do is just not shop at these places that have this stuff.
And you don't even know. Smile, you're on camera. Like how many Americans can just quit going to their Publix or their Walmart or their Food Lion or their Hannaford, right? Like it's unfeasible. Maybe not in New Hampshire, right? Like because we're isolated.
PSAs.
What is this even supposed to mean? Clearwater AI, a facial recognition company that scraped more than 30 billion faces from internet sources. Does that mean that they went and scraped like Facebook, like pictures of people? Oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, so these companies are not, since they're not under the government and they don't have like certain things they have to abide by, even though the government might just ignore that anyway. They're doing like whatever the heck they want, and the problem is the government then contracts them.
Or just takes it from them, or just kicks in the door and says we're taking the data. We have a subpoena written by a judge. We want access to these servers, so you can either play along and give us access to this specific person's information that we want, or we can just run in here with 50 guys with guns and rip all of the computers out of the walls and take them back to a forensics lab and do it the hard way.
It's also worth pointing out that when the federal government has this information, it also means the Chinese government has that information and the Russians have that information, because there's no way that the feds are not losing this info. Like they lose everything else and it gets out there on the internet. So every time this information's it's had by hackers, the North Koreans, the Chi-Coms, whatever.
What do you mean? They just buy it. At this point, they just buy from data brokers.
But also, they're just not that good at, these companies don't care enough and they aren't that good at keeping stuff secure. Like a friend of mine works in a tech company and they used to work with Flock, and they dropped Flock because, and it's a big tech company that he works for. It's not like it's just my friend's company. They dropped Flock which was like a big, account for them, because they were so appalled by Flock's security measures, like OPSEC or whatever you want to say.
Oh, you can I've seen people just go up to Flock cameras. Like if you're within range, you can just get into them.
Wow.
Like with technology, I don't know how it works. Penguin could probably do it pretty easily. But yeah, these Flock cameras aren't very secure electronically.
Got anything else for us, caller?
I do, Bonnie. If I could do a shameless plug.
Yeah.
Mark, I do appreciate the follow on All Politicians Are Liars and Thieves. It's a podcast I just started up. I'm one half of the duo, and I love your all show. I've been listening for over 15 years, and true inspiration. And keep on doing what you're doing. I appreciate it.
What's your name?
Have a good evening.
What's your name, if you want to say?
I'm Michael.
Okay, so you're Michael of All Politicians Are Liars and Thieves. Nice. I'm going to put it into the show notes. Thanks for the call.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all the calls. It's always fun. And the number is 603-283-6160 to get in on the conversation with us.
Well, this face scanning thing, it made me think of right before I came over, I was with Riley, our other host, or Riley O'Bill, I guess he goes by now. Riley, who everybody knows. Well, if you don't, you do now. He had his Meta glasses on, right? Because if you didn't know, Riley's blind. He can't see. So he has these AI Meta glasses on, the Oakley Meta. And he says, he walks into the room, and I'm standing in there with my vape in my hand and my dog sitting next to me on his little bed. And the Meta starts talking to him, and he describes everything in the room with like clear detail. He's like, there's a large man standing in front of you with a blue sweatshirt and bright pattern shorts with a small brown and tan dog, black and tan dog on a bed next to him in a kitchen sort of area. And there's something in this man's hand.
Dang, wow.
And it doesn't know if it's a vape. It almost kind of ominous, right?
Yeah, that is a little
there's
ominous.
Something in this man's hand.
Mama, there's a girl behind you.
Or he seems to be holding something. And it's, but if the robot computer that fits in a pair of sunglasses that you can buy for a couple $100 can describe a room to you in that detail that quickly, what do these billion-dollar asset companies have access to technologically in the face scanning and data recovery technology? It's probably mind-blowing to the point where we would be appalled and probably not even want to go back outside again if you could see like the full level of how much data is really gathered on you when you're out in public like that.
Especially since some retailers have been found to be doing it secretively.
Yeah. Well, because if you go into the property, it's I don't know how the government explains it. It's like implied consent. Like if they put up the sign and it says "Smile, you're on camera," and it's a 2-party state, and they notify that you're being recorded, well, then whatever they do with those recordings, it's implied consent.
Plus, you're in public.
Well, not if you're in like a Walmart. The Walmart owns that building, but it's implied consent that you're being okay with being recorded while in Walmart's building. And Walmart can do whatever they want with that recording because you consented to be recorded. So whatever machine they want to run it through, they can do that. It's the same thing as you click "I agree" on your little phone, that they track everything you search and sneeze at or smile at or giggle at, and they record all of that too, so they can sell you stuff. And that's all well and good. I'm not against selling things. It's just the government kicks in the door and takes all the data anyways, and then puts it into their AI.
And the other thing is they work with law enforcement. Even these stores are working with law enforcement. They scan people's faces who come in for resemblance, according to the ACLU here at aclu.org.
For warrants?
They scan people's faces not only for those who are accused of shoplifting, but also those whose photos have been submitted to the company by law enforcement.
Yeah, so like, hey, we're looking for this guy. We know he lives in the area.
Right.
If you see him, that's terrifying.
That's really creepy. It says, in response to press coverage of the company's, Wegmans, in this case, the grocery store chain Wegmans, which is like, that's a chain? Where at? Because I feel like I've never heard of it.
It's in New York.
Midwest.
Okay.
Is it a Midwest?
It says, in response to the press coverage of the company's use of face recognition in some of its stores, Wegmans says it uses face recognition to try to find persons of interest who are determined by our asset protection team based on incidents occurring on our property, but also on a case-by-case basis by information from law enforcement. So yeah, it sounds exactly what you're saying. It says that the AI or these systems is unreliable, disproportionately imprecise in evaluating the faces of Black people in other groups, and has been the subject of misuse by companies and law enforcement alike, with at least 10 publicly reported cases, nearly all Black, suffering false arrests based on facial recognition errors. And in the incorporation of BOLO, which is be on the lookout for. I just don't know what it means by incorporation.
That's probably like
in the incorporation of BOLO alerts. Sorry. I was thinking it meant like
a program.
Incorporating a corporation. You see what I mean? In the incorporation of BOLO alerts by companies on behalf of law enforcement, it has the powerful potential to become, and maybe already becoming, a powerful nationwide government surveillance dragnet. That's exactly what we're saying. So, like, they told us a little bit, and we were like, yes, this is what this leads to, and now the ACLU is trying to tell us that. So I'm kind of, like, repeating what we've already said.
Well, the ACLU is bothered enough to say something, then it's probably already a problem to the point where we're not stopping it. And I think the cat might be out of the bag on hyper surveillance.
They do some good stuff.
Well, I think, I could just think of, like, hey, this guy has, like, a kid's missing. We'll use the AI camera things to find the kid. Where is he?
I meant the ACLU does.
Oh, I guess the ACLU does some good things. Well,
exactly. That's what it will be used to sell to us. Like, even Flock and Ring doorbells were doing a campaign where they were like, we're going to be working to find missing pets way better than it ever has worked before to try to find missing pets. And people said no. Like, people were like, we don't want this. And they actually had to drop the campaign. So Flock and Ring Doorbell were going to work together to, quote unquote, find missing pets. So they always sell it to you with something that sounds like a good thing. But ultimately,
it's never used for the good thing.
The thing about giving any power to the government is we already know giving power to the government leads to deaths and more, or less and less freedom. So it's like, anytime you think, well, maybe if the government did this one good thing, you have to consider, is it outweighed by the bad? And I don't think it is almost ever. I can't think of a time it's ever been good. Like if the vaccines actually were proven to help, giving the government the power to force vaccines, like literally hold people down and force vaccines, would be such a greater evil than even people naturally dying of a disease. People naturally dying of disease is not a good, but giving that amount of power to the government would have been much worse. See what I mean? And that's what I feel like this kind of thing is. And it's like, I do always wonder, like, is it too late, like, for us to do anything about this? These billionaires live in these tunnels underground and stuff now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too late. It's almost like, man, I hate to bring video games into this, but Red Dead Redemption 1, the first one, it's a really big about the bad guy. His name's Dutch, but his thing is you can't fight change, John. We're relics of a bygone era. There's no more gun fights. There's no more cowboys. There's no more trains to rob. Civilization has caught up to the Wild West, and it's over for men like you and me. You can't fight change. But what Dutch failed to realize is that you can direct you can change the direction the change goes. I don't know if that makes sense. You can manipulate where the change is headed. Like, change is going to happen regardless because of entropy and decay and growth and the cycle of things. It's always going to change. But you can kind of manipulate that as human beings with our ability to look into the future, and we can kind of see patterns and maybe influence it so the change takes a better direction. Like I'm saying, the cat's out of the bag with the technology, but us as humans can adapt. And we can change our strategies to, be more freedom-oriented moving forward. Because, like, you can't just get rid of the tech. There's no taking out the railroad. It's already been put in. The trains are coming. It's how do you adapt? How do we adapt as libertarians or, like, free people with this new technology that's come? And I think that's just the hardest question we're having, because we don't really know which direction the technology is going to take us, so we don't know how to react yet. So
I think
we're kind of in
the
up
only
in the
reaction possible is keep it away from us, therefore keep it out of New Hampshire. Like, we need to get the flock cameras out of the tolls. Other than that, there aren't that many in New Hampshire, and just keep this crap out of New Hampshire.
How are you going to get out of Hannaford?
No, I was about to say the other thing is to support corporations less, and you can do that at least partially by more libertarians moving here and more market days and stuff like that going on, more libertarians buying farms and stuff like that, not using blood money.
Let's just mention, like getting some meat from your local farmers. I used to sell pork, and you can buy half a cow very easily in Southwest New Hampshire. You have to keep a freezer in your house to be able to keep the meat, but you can get on a CSA and they can deliver vegetables and stuff like that. Also, when it comes to being in the grocery store, the hypochondriacs did us a real favor during COVID. You can walk into a grocery store wearing sunglasses and a face mask, and you can buy your Fritos and ice cream.
It's a good point. I've been going to grocery stores with gloves because of the trannies and their hormones that they rub on their bodies, and they don't wash their hands because they don't clean anything. More Free Talk Live coming up. 603-283-6160 is the phone number to get in on the conversation with us. And this is why a lot of libertarians are moving to New Hampshire. It's the separation and conglomerate method.
Calling it the most effective means to reaching one's full earning potential, a new report issued by the Employee Benefit Research Institute this week found that violently slamming one's supervisor against a wall and shouting, "Cash, I need more cash," is still the leading tactic for securing a raise amongst American workers.
We found that employees have the most success negotiating their salaries when they stride confidently into their supervisor's office, manhandle them like a rag doll, and demand more money right now.
Experts confirmed that the majority of employees who managed to increase their salaries maintained direct eye contact with their supervisors while reiterating that they were not f***ing around, emphasizing their position with phrases such as, "Give me the money now," and "I said more cash, old man." The Onion sat down with Kevin Simmons, who recently applied these methods in negotiating a competitive bump in his annual salary.
So the other day I walked right into his office, grabbed his throat with my hand, and told him straight up, "Start paying me more f***ing money today." And I grabbed $100 out of his wallet and told him that was a good start.
This is the Onion News Network.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. President Trump says he's under no pressure to end the war with Iran and that he doesn't want to rush peace talks. He's also ruled out using a nuclear weapon against Tehran, describing the idea as stupid. The US and Iran remain in a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah, but at least a 3-week extension of the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. Questions, of course, will abound about whether Hezbollah is going to honour that ceasefire because they're not party to these talks.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. It's one of a number of options apparently being examined to punish NATO members for failing to support the Iran war. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation. Suspending difficult countries from important or prestigious positions at NATO is also another option apparently being looked at by the US. President Trump has repeatedly threatened to leave NATO, but the unnamed official said the Pentagon email made no reference to that. John Beaver reporting.
India and the United Kingdom are looking to deepen strategic cooperation after high-level talks between India's National Security Advisor and his British counterpart Jonathan Powell. The discussions focused on security, technology and global geopolitical coordination. Ishan Garg reports from New Delhi.
India and the UK are stepping up engagement across defence, intelligence and emerging technologies. Officials say the talks between India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval and his counterpart covered counter-terror cooperation, Indo-Pacific security and supply chain resilience. Both sides also explored collaboration in critical technologies, including artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. The dialogue comes as New Delhi and London push to strengthen ties after finalizing a free trade agreement. Analysts say growing convergence reflects shared concerns over global instability and the need for trusted, strategic partnerships. Ishan Garg, New Delhi.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease. It's only meant to be sold and accessed by verified research institutions, and it's thought these datasets came from places that had legitimately purchased the databases before someone illegally put them online to be sold. Those organizations have had their access to biobank information revoked, according to the government, which thanked China and e-commerce platform Alibaba for their help removing the listings before any purchases were made. Stuart Smith, London.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
An update now on a legal battle emerging around the Onion News Network's own Jode Kressbeckler. After the shocking story yesterday that a group of assailants attacked Congressman William Cummings, tied him to a horse, and dragged him through a briar patch, some are now saying these statements from Mr. Kressbeckler last week may have incited the attack.
Bootlegging Congressman Cummings ought to be tied to a horse and drugged through a briar patch.
Mr. Kressbeckler's show is billed as an opinion and entertainment program.
Yes,
and
it
he
is.
even calls himself nothing but a caterwauling old badger, so the claim that he would incite people to violence seems pretty far-fetched.
He displayed a map of Congressman Cummings' home in relation to the nearest briar patch, told his viewers where to purchase a, quote, good pulling horse, and used a life-size dummy of Congressman Cummings to demonstrate effective knot tying techniques.
Right. I think most reasonable people would see that as simply a ribald political satire.
Right.
Briar patch is obviously a metaphor for the prickly political atmosphere in Washington, and drag from a horse means something else.
Makes sense to me.
This is the Onion News Network.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. That means you can call 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie.
Angelo.
Win.
And Mark Edge.
And we did I refreshed Drudge Report just to see if there's anything I need to know about going on. And apparently there were just shots fired at an event at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and Trump was evacuated by Secret Service. It's interesting. Doesn't mean he was shot at. Like in the video, you don't see like people ducking like immediately when the noise is. It almost sounds like it's outside. I could be wrong. We listened to the audio during the break. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Just wanted to mention that. Even though they say that it was one shooter and he's been neutralized. But interesting. We'll see what happens with that.
Wonder what that means. Doesn't sound good for that shooter.
Yep, neutralized. But if you're tired of the oppressive rules and moderation of the big tech social media sites, our Mastodon server at social.freetalklive.com, that's social.freetalklive.com, it can set you free. Mastodon is free, open source, decentralized, and federated. Multiple apps are available for iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and Linux. social.freetalklive.com. And in the video, definitely like there's the sound and everybody looks confused, but it takes like several seconds for them to start moving out of the way and they're not running. So it does seem like it wasn't like in the room, I really think.
But I doubt anybody would be able to get a firearm into that kind of room. I feel like that would be
it's in New Hampshire.
Well, I mean, like the White House Correspondents' Dinner at the White House. feel like that's going to be one of the hardest rooms on the planet to get a firearm into. But somebody outside shooting on the street, that sounds like a.
Oh, it says that they stormed the Washington Hilton lobby.
So it was at a hotel.
I think that's where the DNC was. The LNC, the Libertarian National Convention, was that Trump said he was going to free Rossett. Wasn't it the Washington Hilton?
I think that was at the Cleveland.
Cleveland. I don't know. It just sounded right for a second. Whatever. Apparently the shooter was in the lobby. So yeah, it was in probably a conference room type deal. That the actual dinner was going on. So the shooter was in the lobby. Yeah, people ran out and ran into the lobby. That's kind of silly. Anyways, we have a caller on the line. Paul from Arizona, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
Hi, Bonnie, Angelo, Wynn, Mark.
Hello.
I thought I'd take the opportunity to kind of help balance out some of the news coverage that's been going on in the Middle East. The Jews have been getting kind of pasted, and I think it's important to understand, some of the historical background behind this. Everybody wants to go back to the only so far as to support their point of view. And then when you go back farther, you find out, oh, wait a minute, things are more complicated than that. So I'm just want to.
So are you saying you think that the Jews are getting too much hate, or vice versa?
Well, I think it's important to get a perspective on this. Okay. Yes, Jews have been historically stepped on for thousands of years. Okay. I mean, going all the way back to the Romans. The Jews, had their own culture, had their own religion, and, they were pretty much, minding their own business, but the Romans didn't like them because they didn't worship the Roman gods. So this put them in bad odor with the Romans. So the Romans changed the name of Judea, which was the historic land of where the Jews were, to Palestine, thereby erasing the Jewish label on that land.
But Judea didn't mean Jewish. The word Jewish didn't come from the word Judea. Jude, I think, or maybe Judea, actually, was the name of one of the sons that didn't end up Israel. And I don't know why they used that word necessarily, but I mean, it's not the same thing as the word Jew.
It was connected with the Israeli, the Israel, I mean, the name Israel goes way back too. Okay.
Yeah, but Islam is also a Abrahamic religion.
That's true, but it came much late into the game.
Yeah.
But the point is that when other cultures, defend themselves, I mean, the Romans certainly were defending themselves against some of the Gauls and all these other people, and of course the Romans, got to be aggressive, and their militarism, their expansionist militarism proved to be their downfall. Not to mention the debasement of the currency and destroying their economy. But the point is that every place, as history went through, Jewish people migrated all different places in the world, and many times they were welcome because they would engage in trade and business that other cultures were proscribed from. For instance, the Christians, they had the thing where you couldn't charge interest on any kind of a loan, and the problem
usury.
is in an economy. Yeah, well, they called any sort of interest usury. Okay, Now we define usury as excessive interest. Okay, but anybody who understands something about economics is if you've amassed some wealth, and you can then take that wealth and allow another person to prosper, and therefore expand the wealth for everyone. That's a service, which should be, something you should be able to be remunerated for. So when the Jews were willing to do that, oh yeah, come on down. Yeah, you can loan us money, But then when it became inconvenient, for them, they says, well, okay, well, you guys can go pound sand, And for thousands of years, and I'm just walking up to the last 200 or 300 years at this point. Jews were living in various nations, and it was, if you recall, the French Dreyfus affair, when the Jewish army official, I don't know, he was a general. He was a very high-ranking military official, very highly respected. And then because he was Jewish, somebody decided that, well, he should be brought down, because we don't like Jews. So they forged a document framing him. And when that became known that this document existed, everybody, a large number of people accepted it as true and basically destroyed him and his reputation. He spent a lot of time in prison. And the French people, who were fairly friendly to the Jews, all of a sudden became very non-friendly. And a guy by the name of Theodor Herzl said, look, this has been repeated throughout history. As long as we live under someone else's flag, we are always going to be at effect of their opinions of us. We need to have our own flag. We need to have our own nation. We need to have we need to be the equal of all of the other nations in the world. Nobody, we should have a chunk of land that nobody can order us around and nobody can throw us out of. And that was the beginning of the Zionist movement. The Zionism merely meant Jews should have the same rights and privileges in the world stage that the French, the Germans, the Spanish, the Portuguese, everyone else has. The Jews should have that as well. That's what Zionism originally was. And
one of the things that I've always thought about is if Roosevelt, FDR, hadn't have turned around the ship of the damned. And if you don't know what this is, it was a ship of 5,000 people, 5,000 Jews that were trying to escape Nazi Germany.
The Nazis, yes.
And they, and Roosevelt said, no, I don't think we can handle any Jews here. Of course, I mean, people all over the place. Really, it was absolutely anti-Semitism. Had he accepted them and whatever other Jews that wanted to come from, Germany, Poland, Russia, however it is they wanted to come. Imagine what a different place America would be with, all those Nobel Prizes and all those, all that high intellect that would have made it and all those people who otherwise went and made Israel great. Because all you have to do is stand in Israel and then stand in Palestine and then stand in Lebanon. You just take a look around and there's a big difference between the two places.
The idiocy of bigotry.
Yes, it's a legacy. Yeah.
And so now they're talking about, well, Israel is an illegitimate state because it's a colony. Okay. A colonial state. That's the new label. Okay. Now, my question is, what is a colony? Okay. Well, let's see. The United States originally was a colony of Britain. There were colonies of France. In fact, in the southern part of the American continent, there was a French colony. Germans migrated here. Okay, there were Italian colonies. The South America had Spanish and Portuguese colonies. Okay?
Yeah, but all of those places, they actually did work in order to colonize these places, and they made it. They didn't just get a UN declaration this goes to you, and we're going to force it with all these guns we have, and we're going to take away the Palestinians, all of fields, and give them to you because, well, God said so 3,000 years ago, or maybe 2,000. 3,000 years ago.
The point was...
So it's just not one-to-one, and I just didn't want to listen to that whole thing and it not be one-to-one. It's just not. People who went and colonized places that were either just really low technologically advanced people and someone along with it and some got killed. That's honestly literally more, in my opinion, what's the word I'm trying to say? Okay. That's not actually the word I want to say. It's just more valid than there's tons of people living here, not just Jews, because Judea doesn't mean Jew. It was Judah, one of the sons of Israel. And that's just what it was called for a while. But there were regular Palestinians that weren't Jews living there. And they got their land just ripped from them just because the UN says so. Just because these people...
What do you mean their land was ripped from them?
That there were people living there for at least hundreds of years, let's say, who had no way to defend themselves. They were just selling olives from their trees, and they had farms and such. I'm keep going back to that example because my own friend I met at PorkFest That's what happened to his dad. His dad fled Palestine in like the 50s because the government that took over, because the UN just said, hey, we're going to give you this land, just took their family's whole large fields and fields of olive trees from them, made them destitute, and they had to go run around and become members of other nations. And his dad, he only lives in America today because his dad met, I think, a Lebanese woman. They were both doctors, not idiots living down there. They were all living peacefully with Christians, Jews alike. And he got to come to America, but that didn't have to happen to him. It wasn't right what happened, that the Jews just like, you guys were victims once, so for even though everybody's been a victim, we're the UN going to use our guns in England. We're going to use our guns to just give you these people's land. It's not like, everybody likes to act like it was just some empty space sitting there. And I don't think you can, Mark, compare the fact that the Palestinians are doing badly and Lebanon even is doing badly when the United States and Israel oppress those people actively.
Sure. I don't know what it would be like in the absence of Israel. I could just say, if I had to pick a place to live, I know where I'd pick because it's nice, comparatively.
Well, you're not a Jew, so it probably wouldn't be that nice to you.
What I've heard about the Palestinians is that many of them that are, sort of claiming land were renters at the time, and that most of the landowners have been compensated. And this
we were talking about this with the little pink house. It's like if you have like olive tree fields that your family's owned for hundreds of years, so clearly I don't think it's all been rented, and you don't want to sell it, and the Jews give you some money for it. Oh, it's fine. We give them money for it. Doesn't make it fine.
That's right either. But just to be clear, there are Arab Jews. Arab Israelis, and they do exist, and some of them were incorporated in.
Yeah, that's why I said that the three of them were living peacefully together in that land at the time.
And if you look at the American Indian, the way things are here in the United States, I mean, at what point do you just kind of give up? I mean, like, what are we going to do with all the Jews that are currently in Israel? They got to all go back to wherever they were going?
Well, if they start getting attacked like October 7th and stuff like that, I doubt they're going to say, well, we should just give up. Clearly, we're not wanted here, and like most of their surrounding people don't want them there.
I would.
I'm not saying that they should. I'm just saying that maybe they would.
Just to be clear, if people were willing to die to see me die, if people were willing to sacrifice their children in a war on me, I'd be like, whoa, can I sell this house on pennies on the dollar and get the F out of here? Because I would absolutely get out of Israel if I was a Jew.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like, get out of Israel. I thought you were saying it'd be okay that they killed you. I was like, wow. But yeah, I agree that
I don't think it's okay. But what I'm saying is that any Palestinian that isn't trying to get out of Palestine is also out of their minds. As far as I'm concerned, all I can do is try to figure out what crazy people are doing. Like what's right as far as crazy people go. And on one hand, I believe that you're allowed to defend your land. If you believe that's your land, I believe that you're allowed to defend it with violence. And if somebody was trying to take my land with violence and they kept doing it,
and they were
like
winning,
it wasn't just one single incident, I would get out of there.
Yeah, that's like the modern day thing that I also agree with. Like I heard somebody talking to Trump in the crowd, and Trump was saying, I just don't see why the Palestinians want to stay there. And somebody in the crowd said, because it's their home. And the military brat in me was like, I would definitely leave if I was a Palestinian there right now. But the other thing about it is they don't have anywhere that wants to take them. So there is that.
And there's that's kind of it shows that they're a political pawn, right?
Yeah, and also
if Egypt doesn't want to take them, and Saudi Arabia doesn't want to take them, and the UAE, by the way, the UAE has a lot of them. And I don't know why the Palestinians that are there can't get away, but I mean, I've seen a lot of Palestinians in a lot of different places.
And you say that sounds familiar, Paul, but it's like they could also just stop currently trying to kill them and poison their food and water supply and stuff like that, and then it wouldn't have to be a situation where they're looking for somewhere to go. Well, they can just continue living there.
But I would like to answer some of the points you raised.
Okay.
First of all, back in this whole area has been extremely complex. One of the things I would recommend to get some perspective on this, there's a guy named Daryl Cooper who has a website called Martyr Made, Martyr, and he did like a 5 or 6 part series on the Middle East Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem, and he goes into a lot of this history with the British and the French, and oh my God, Palestine was actually, at the turn of the century, Palestine was actually this huge area, okay, after World War I, when the Ottoman Empire fell, okay, it became, like a feeding frenzy with the winning, the French and the Americans and the British who won World War I, okay, thought, well, they could carve things up here, Now you could say, well, gee, that's kind of unfair, and of course you'd be right. But the point is, Palestine was this huge area, and there was a guy, I don't remember his name now, but he was very instrumental in the British war effort. He found a chemical process that allowed the British to make munitions far cheaper and in far larger quantities than they were able to do. And as a reward, they asked him, what do you want? You saved us, because, World War I was not a foregone conclusion at some point, So his invention definitely changed the balance of power during that war. And they asked him, what do you want? And what he said is, all I want is for the British government to support the idea of a tiny chunk of land somewhere near Jerusalem where the Jews could live in peace, okay, not under anyone else. Therefore, that's where the Balfour Declaration was written in 1917. And after all the smoke cleared, and after all of this, you can look up the Sykes-Picot Agreement and all of these things. The bottom line was in 1948, the British, the British were in charge of this chunk of land. Okay, they promised the Arabs a chunk of this because of their help in fighting the Nazis. And this huge chunk of land, most of it became Jordan. Okay. If you look at a book called From Time Immemorial, okay, it's a woman who wrote this book who worked for an American news agency in 1973, went to the Middle East because there was another war against Israel in 1973, and she came there to report on this. Now, she came with the idea that Israel, were the bad guys, they were stirring up trouble, right? And so she started talking to not only the Israelis, but the Arabs. And the more the Arabs talked to her, the more she realized, oh, these guys do not want to live in peace, okay?
40 years after their land was already taken from them, I just don't see how you're rebutting anything I said. Like, first of all,
what I'm saying is, in 1948, the UN...
Here's the thing. I have to mute you. You're monologuing and you're not actually answering anything I'm trying to say. The thing about it is that if libertarians said, listen, all we want government of any big major empire is a place to live near New Hampshire, and somebody grabbed a bunch of Yankees' houses and gave it to us, and those Yankees were mad about it, and nobody wanted to take them because no one likes Yankees, which is, kind of tongue-in-cheek. But, and then those people just had to live in a little area of New Hampshire, not their houses. They're angry about it, and we keep them absolutely oppressed the whole time. And then 40 years later, they're not happy about it. It doesn't prove anything to me, one. And two, it doesn't make it right that we stole the Yankees' land just because we want a place to live, even though literally libertarians are way more, in my opinion, going extinct than the Jews were just because they had to live in separate countries. It's like everywhere else that they've colonialized a place, they had to do it with the lives of men and women and children. And it's like, if you just go and get Israel or England to give you a place that's like not, you don't have the right. You see what I mean? Like, you don't get the.
Well, my issue is ethno-state. It's an ethno-state. I thought we were against ethno-states.
We could go into that more if you wanted to on the next.
I don't know that I am against ethno-states.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just don't know.
Why am I against ethno-states?
More Free Talk Live coming up. I mean, why can't Germany have an ethno-state? But they can. But more Free Talk Live coming up.
Fact: the new NSA data center in Utah requires 1.7 million gallons of water every single day to operate. Billions of Fourth Amendment violations need massive computers and the water to cool them. That water is being supplied by the state of Utah. Fact: there's absolutely nothing in the Constitution which requires your state to help the feds violate your rights. Our message to Utah: turn it off. No water equals no NSA data center. Visit offnow.org.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann with the Week in Review. President Trump says he's under no pressure to end the war with Iran and that he doesn't want to rush peace talks. He's also ruled out using a nuclear weapon against Tehran, describing the idea as stupid. The US and Iran remain in a stalemate over the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil and gas supplies. President Trump also said that the Israel-Lebanon ceasefire has been extended by 3 weeks. Simon Marks reports from Washington.
The headline, of course, is that the president has announced that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon is going to be extended for another 3 weeks. I think there's another important nugget, though, in what President Trump has announced. He says the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that look like? And how do you explain that to your Make America Great Again, America First supporters in terms that are not going to lead them to worry that ground troops might get involved on the ground in Lebanon, that you might find yourself involved in nation building, that phrase that is polarizing for Republicans, particularly in the United States. So there are real questions there about what he means when he says the US is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah.
It is claimed that the US is considering reviewing its support for Britain's claim to the Falkland Islands. John Beaver has more.
An internal Pentagon email has expressed frustration with NATO allies for their reluctance or outright refusal to host US aircraft conducting strikes against Iran. The claims come from an unnamed source talking to the Reuters news agency, who claims to have read the email. Options for punishment apparently include reviewing the US position on Britain's territorial claims to the Falkland Islands, as well as suspending Spain from NATO. The Spanish Prime Minister has been a vocal critic of the US war with Iran, calling for diplomacy and negotiation instead of a military operation.
And finally, the medical details of 500,000 members of a UK health data project have been found for sale online in China. They come from the Biobank database, which was set up in 2003 to gather anonymised data into diseases like cancer and dementia. Stuart Smith has more from London.
Earlier this week, the independent Biobank charity alerted the government that 3 datasets, including one containing the medical details of all volunteers, was being sold online in China. Britain's Minister for Data said no names or contact details were uploaded, but the database would have contained the genetic, health and lifestyle data of 500,000 volunteers who had donated that information to help researchers around the world investigate the causes of disease.
From Feature Story News in New York, I'm Mitch McCann, and that was the Week in Review.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control, and that means that you can call 603-283-6160 to get in on the conversation with us. Bring up whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160 is the phone number. And with you on Free Talk Live tonight, you've got me, Bonnie,
Angelo,
Win,
and Mark Edge.
And we have lots of different things to talk about tonight. It seems like the shooting with the White House seemed like a bit of a nothing burger. It was in the lobby, and they all ended up fine, is what we're basically hearing. Yeah, and they're saying that Caroline Leavitt calls on everyone to watch tonight because Donald Trump will bring the heat and there will be shots fired. Let's freaking... Oh, that was 2 hours ago? What? Is this real? I thought that this was an update about the thing. Anyways, that's weird. So Caroline Leavitt said before the thing, watch tonight because Donald Trump will bring the heat and there will be shots fired. That was 2 hours ago posted. And I thought I was looking at an update. I'm sorry, that just seems a little crazy. I bet that. Well,
I saw that. I guess it took off. Well, I guess Tim Dillon was talking about it, that the Trump assassination could be staged. Like more and more people are starting to think that the Pennsylvania,
like Bakersfield or something like that.
Something where he got shot in the ear by Thomas Matthew Crooks, the guy that we still don't really know anything about, whose house was pretty much devoid of being lived in when people went there.
Butler, Pennsylvania.
That it was some kind of staged thing.
I could see it.
Now it's like here's another. Is this staged thing?
And it wouldn't even have to be staged by Trump. We don't have to know who it was staged by. For it to be some kind of inside job. But we do have a caller on the line, so I want to see what's on their mind. Unscreened caller, you're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
You never cease to be as dumb as you are.
Okay, you are dumb because you keep breaking your... Oh, I was almost going to dump him, but no, he just said I was dumb. I never cease to be as dumb as I am, in fact. Like, what a great insult, so stupid. Yep, just another instance of breaking his... It's not that he's just not allowed to call.
He's got a restraining order against me, and so he can't... I see. By the way, I'm getting a call on my phone now. He's breaking the restraining order there, too.
Seriously? Oh my god, that's creepy and horrible.
It's lunatic.
Yeah, James Whittakind, he's a weirdo who has a bunch of DUIs in Arizona. Whatever. Anybody else can call into Free Talk Live at 603-283-6160 and bring up whatever's on their mind. But yeah, I think that the shooting thing is probably over. Nothing else to really say about it, but it did seem pretty crazy for a second. They're saying the president will return to the stage because the show must go on. So, yep.
I like that attitude.
Yeah.
I'm of that opinion.
Yeah. So one thing we're going to talk about, and I don't think we got into like the meat or the interesting part of it because there is a little bit of meat. It's from the Wall Street Journal, how Joe Rogan convinced Trump to fast-track review of psychedelic drugs. And we explained how the review means that they're going to look at it and see if there actually is any maybe medical reason to reschedule it, meaning bring it down the schedule from Schedule 1, or it, as in like all these psychedelic drugs that they're looking at in this article will probably tell us which specific ones. They're going to research them and see if they should be brought from Schedule 1, meaning no medical use at all, is just illegal, to maybe some medical use and people can start using it in maybe things like clinics. A text message from podcaster Joe Rogan kicked off a frenetic week-long effort by the Trump administration to announce changes to the way the government handles psychedelic drugs. I wonder if he texts him often or if this is like so rare that he's like, that Trump's like, yep, I'm going to do it because my friend Joe Rogan texted me. You see what I mean? President Trump signed an executive order Saturday that seeks to fast-track research into certain psychedelic drugs, including LSD, ibogaine, which some veterans have used to treat their post-traumatic stress disorder. Which I didn't really know that much about specific thing about ibogaine. I always knew that ibogaine is like a way to reset your brain to really help you get out of an addiction, to more quickly basically withdraw from a substance, like a different one other than the ibogaine itself. Oh, really? It's an African native African plant, and people will go and take it, and it's sort of like
ayahuasca adjacent.
Yeah, where you're throwing up the whole time and you're having these like really in-depth type of the thing is, if you withdraw from these drugs, you're going to be throwing up and stuff like that too, but over a really long period of time and feeling horrible all that time and wanting nothing but your meth or whatever it is to feel more normal and give your body what it wants. But instead, you go through it for 12 hours and wake up the next day and feel better than you have in a really long time without any want for that drug you've been addicted to. Yeah, my friend just was telling, I already knew about it for a long time.
Does it work on cinnamon rolls? Cheesecake?
I don't know.
Yeah, it probably could. I think what it kind of is imagine you have like a study, like an old school study with the big mahogany desk and dad's chair or whatever. And there's like a mini library, and you go into the study and there's books everywhere on the ground, and the place is a mess, and you kind of can take those 12 hours and pick up the books and kind of like rearrange the layout and clean up the study that is your inner brain,
neurons.
like your, maybe not your neurons, but your outlook on stuff, right? Because that's kind of like with the PTSD, and a lot of addiction is mental too. Like that's mostly what it is it's mental that goes into physical, right? With chemical dependencies and whatnot. But a lot of it is kind of a mental thing. So that going into that space, it allows you to reset, like you were saying, reset that study that is your outlook or like your conscious, and you come out the other side not as emotionally dependent on the substance, if that makes sense. So you can get off it easier, or you can like let go of the trauma that is your addiction, because addiction is traumatic. It's hard to be a slave to a substance.
And I guess that makes a lot of sense why it would just help somebody with, oh yeah, I forgot. I listened to somebody, their like kind of like story of going and doing an Ibogaine retreat, but they also had it was like a supernatural experience that happened during it. But anyways, they went just for post-traumatic stress from being in the war, or being in a war also. And yeah, so I forgot people do it for that. I guess that was a really interesting story where he when he was throwing up and stuff, he remembered throwing up and stuff, but then he remembers going into like a state or whatever. And when he's in this state, like different men in his life that he had known before came and talked to him. And so like kind of set some things like that were like he wanted to kill himself, and they were coming through and helping talk him, not just like talk him out of it, but like talk to him about all kinds of things and answering so many questions for him. He said he couldn't even remember what the answers to the questions were when he woke up or anything, but he just felt way more at peace and never wanted to kill himself.
Yeah, I guess like closure. I guess if that makes any sense, into like a frantic episode or a frantic period. Is it, you can kind of like you pick up, like back to that study idea, like you pick it up and there's notes of things that you didn't finish before this tragedy had happened, or like things that were just left half done in the whirlwind of it all, and you kind of get to go through and reorganize all that and kind of get your thoughts in a row and kind of find out, this happened, these things happened to me, and I've been so caught up in my trauma or my addiction or just in your own head that you didn't even give yourself time to process that, but that's still bagging you down in your brain, even though you haven't taken time to realize it. And psychedelics just allow you to do that in a more in-depth way by stripping away the ego. At least that's just what I've found with them in this kind of setting.
Yeah, with Ibogaine, it's just one of those things that like people don't use recreationally, really. Like it'd be really, really rare, if anything. Like it's not something that people go around just like addicted to Ibogaine itself. So it's just like, it's, in my opinion, like indefensible, you know what I mean, for it to be Schedule 1 like that. Like there's absolutely no Ibogaine clinics in America, even though there are, like ketamine and stuff like that. Trying to find the article again.
Yeah, well, they've been using ketamine for the same kind of stuff, haven't they? For like a PTSD treatment.
Yes. In a depression,
kind of going to a K-hole and reordering your emotional thoughts.
What's a K-hole?
It's just the
Taking
place you slip
ketamine.
into if you do too much ketamine.
I see.
It's not supposed to be pleasant, apparently.
No, it's kind of I guess. Yeah, but unpleasantness makes you grow, they would say.
I don't think that they're slipping you into K-holes when they take you on these clinics, at least not intentionally. Yeah, like
maybe not a complete K-hole, but you are like in an altered state of mind. You know, like at a hallucinogenic state.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, I think it's like indefensible to not make ibogaine a lower schedule. So I'm glad that Trump is having them look at this. He said, in many cases, these experimental treatments have shown life-changing potential for those suffering from severe mental illness and depression, including our cherished veterans. The move had a secondary political benefit for Trump, keeping on his side for now one of the most influential podcasters in the country. Rogan endorsed Trump in the 2024 presidential election, but has since criticized the Trump administration on his podcast, especially over its immigration policy in handling of the Iran war, which Rogan has called terrifying. We all respect Joe. He's a little more liberal, Trump said Saturday at the signing. It's okay. That's hilarious. That's really funny. He's a little more liberal. It's okay. I don't think I've ever heard him say that about anyone. Standing behind Trump in the Oval Office, Rogan recalled bringing public attention to the drug when he hosted a recent podcast with W. Brian Hubbard, an advocate for ibogaine research, and former Texas Governor Rick Perry, who spoke about the benefits of ibogaine. He sent a text message to Trump that included statistics about the drug's success in reducing opioid addiction. The text message came back, "Sounds great. Do you want FDA approval? Let's do it," Rogan recalled. It was literally that quick. And that sounds right, because that sounds like exactly what Angela McArdle said that he said when she asked him about freeing Ross. He was like, "Who is he? Let's do it. I love giving pardons."
Yeah, I bet Trump does love giving pardons. It does sound like him, and that's probably the reason that he created the whole the pardon czar, just to keep people away from him, because he'll just give out the pardons.
It says Mehmet Oz, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator, described the process from there. I don't know what I mean. Oh, the process from like once Trump already said yes, as an unimaginable task in 1 week to be able to go from a series of connections and communications with Joe Rogan to completing the executive order. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has made easing access to psychedelic medicines one of his priorities, and his department and the White House have been working on policy solutions for months, people familiar with the matter said. Rogan's involvement accelerated the efforts and moved the initiative to the top of Trump's queue, the people said. Kennedy aide Callie Means and Heidi Overton, interesting name, deputy owner or director of the Domestic Policy Council, helped expedite the executive order after the president asked for it, the people said. The executive order directs the Food and Drug Administration to expedite its review of some psychedelic drugs that have been categorized as breakthrough therapy drugs. In addition, and by breakthrough therapy, it doesn't like define it there. It means that like people who have had depression that is not touched by anything else. Like it's definitely not touched by just hang out with your friends more and go on walks and get some sun. And it's also not touched by any of the antidepressants drugs out there. So treatment resistant, and then they do ketamine in an office and they have their first breakthrough type of thing.
Yeah, as well, it's just guided. It's the same, I don't know. We're kind of going full circle from when you would sit in a sweat hut with a shaman and he would give you this silly drink and then guide you through this kind of process of things that, you know, change your mindset on life. And now we're sitting with some lady in an office that gives you this weird little drink and then is going to walk you through this process that kind of changes your mindset and your life.
Yeah, same thing, just fewer feathers and chicken bones, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's kind of what I'm seeing. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. It's cyclical, right? We went away from it for so long. You know, with the like Christian Europe kind of outlawing that kind of stuff.
They outlawed the Germanic people's mushroom mead.
Yeah. So like they've been away from it for so long, and we're just cycling back in, and we're just getting back into that kind of using these chemicals as tools, right? Because that's what humans do. We take these things and we use them.
We do have a caller on the line. Let's go to David in New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live. Sorry if I hung up on you. I don't know if I did.
Not today.
Okay.
You have many times, but not today.
No, I just meant while you're trying to call, because I kept having hang up on the other caller that keeps trying to call.
No, not that. But no, I'm sure you will hang up on me though at some point in the call. I mean,
David,
that's usually how it
if
goes.
you could hang up on people, who would you hang up on the most?
Mark Edge should be Dedgington.
Oh my God.
No, I mean, if you were one of the hosts of the show, who would be that caller that you just like click?
I'm not like, actually, I when the people that people like you guys that are radio hosts, the people that you don't like, I like talking to. I would just keep them on and just keep talking to them. Until they get really ugly, I don't feel the need to hang up on them.
Yeah, well, that's generally the policy of Free Talk Live is you're not banned unless you make threats. Of course, when you make threats, then, that's it.
You see, I wouldn't even ban them when they make threats. I would play with that.
Yeah, but his calls are also boring. It'd be one thing. It's like I've tried. Like when Mark's not on, I usually let him talk, and it's like I wish you were like more entertaining. Like the only thing is like his really sad attempts at insults, like being like, Bonnie, you've never been any dumber than you have right now. It's like you sound like
he wears a fedora and a leather jacket.
Yeah.
So,
you sound like Dexter mad at Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory.
My suggestion for that is, you've heard the expression. Well, first of all, it's like herding cats, which is difficult or impossible to do. But I would use that same herder mentality, and I would try to verbally herd them the direction you want them to go.
I do try to verbally hurt him, but he doesn't go away. No, I'm just kidding.
Hurt?
Yeah.
There we go. Freudian slip. Bonnie is trying to verbally hurt them.
Yeah. It wasn't a Freudian slip. I said it on purpose.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay. You're faster than I am. That's right. You've improved the looks around the place. Who's sitting in with you?
Third caller being creepy. It's Win. It's Win. No, I'm just kidding. That wasn't that creepy.
I thought you were talking about my haircut, dog. I'm upset. I went and got this. I paid $40 for this haircut, and whatever.
Why is it creepy to appreciate that somebody is not ugly?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. It really wasn't that creepy. The other callers were really creepy.
Oh, I didn't get to hear them. I just tuned in, so I'll have to go back because I love to hear creepy stuff. But no, that word needs to be retired. It's run its course.
I don't think so. I think women need the word. I find myself using it often enough.
Skeevy. I think people need to bring back skeevy.
I like skeezy. Skeezy is good.
No, with a V.
I think the words like creepy and skeevy have been misused to the point that it's destroying the birth population. I mean, I'm afraid America's...
No, we don't understand you, Mark. Speak English.
Well,
English, please. English, please.
Women have overused the term creepy to the point that everybody's now creepy and nobody wants to have babies.
Yeah, if people didn't use that word, they would just be having sex with the people they find creepy. Good point.
They might.
What, Bonnie? I didn't follow that logic.
It's just like the overuse of the word creepy is not the problem. I don't think that the women would have sex with or have babies with the people they find creepy.
I don't think that them finding that person creepy is the problem. I think that they call somebody creepy, and then other women hear it and say, "Oh, well, that guy's
they
creepy.
get the ick.
Now what?"
Yeah, it's like they pass the ick by going like, "Oh, you think he's cute? I think he's creepy," and the other girl goes, Maybe he is kind of creepy. Maybe I shouldn't go talk to him.
Sounds like
now.
Evolution at work.
Yeah, that could be it too.
Evolution would have about 15% of the men procreate, and the rest of them wouldn't. And there'd be no baby daddies at that. There'd be nobody to raise the kids.
I don't know.
Had
What that
things
means.
much better than there was when it was like 50-50.
Well, there would still be the cuck mark. Cuck mark. I like that. It's like trademark, only cuck mark.
Oh my gosh. That's mean.
No, I see what Mark's saying. Like if we went back to like Grug caveman times, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would be 15% of the men, the biggest, the fastest, the strongest, would be having kids with 10 to 15 different women because they're the biggest, the fastest, and the strongest, and they can just take what they want.
You don't think that it's true that if women talk amongst each other, they're able to identify threats and spread that information, and there's nothing wrong with that. And honestly, if like that is like let's say it was forced to be stopped, there'd probably be more abuse today than there already is.
I don't think you can force what I'm talking about at all.
I know, but I was like trying to make the hypothetical make sense.
Responsibility issue. And yes, I wouldn't call 19-year-old women or 27-year-old women particularly responsible. That's not what I think of when I think of the word responsible.
I don't think the men that make them feel like they were being creepy are very responsible. Have you ever been to the Quill?
I get it. You've heard of creepy people, and you think those creepy people are creepy. But your opinion and other women's opinion are different. But when you share them, and then everybody comes up with the creep list, and everybody's on the creep list, then nobody's having babies.
I don't think that's the reason people aren't having babies.
You don't care because you don't want to have babies.
No, I'm able to know about the situation without being personally having babies. Like Angelo and Eowyn don't have babies, or those people aren't here.
Babies anyway, Bonnie.
What does that mean?
You know darn well what it means. It's against the rules.
That I don't know what that means literally. Like just because
normie rules anyway. I'm sure it's not. This is all tongue in cheek, so don't get mad. Against the normie rules since
because Ian's in prison.
Well, he's double. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if you're saying that or the vasectomy.
That brings up a question that I've been wondering about for a long time. Do they have conjugal visits in this prison?
No, but that's Googleable. You can just look it up. Federal prisons don't have conjugal visits. Besides, me and Ian wouldn't be interested in that anyway.
My conversation with you to go on Google.
No, I'm just telling you that it's. You said you wanted to know it for a while.
Yeah, but it just occurred to me now. It's not like I think about it 24 hours a day. I think about it from time to time, like when I'm talking to Bonnie and about sexual stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense to me.
But I already answered the question, so.
Is that creepy, Bonnie?
Yeah.
Yeah,
have you told the story? What about that guy who was just leaving to go down the street?
I don't want to have inside information about what people did or anything like that.
All
since
right,
I don't.
fine.
I do. Tell.
Well, one thing I don't have any. One thing that is known, and it's not like part of an investigation or anything, is there was this guy who unfortunately got thrown into the shoe. He had a beautiful girlfriend. She looked like Aaliyah, but more feminine. She was so beautiful. And they were always in the visiting room with me and Ian, so like obviously I saw them, and I don't know this man. Wasn't like friends with Ian or anything like that. So I don't know his name or anything about him. Not that I would say it anyway. But yeah, they would visit all the time, and they were always like kissing in the outside area, which you're not supposed to do, but it was like you could get away with it. Easily you could get away with it. But there was one tree in this place, and so one day they didn't hear the call out that's like visits over, and they were back there doing sexual stuff. So he got thrown in the shoe, and she got not allowed to visit him anymore. It's really just like I can't believe they threw away their visits over something like that. So I don't want to say what they're doing because I don't know. So that's like that kind of stuff happens all the time.
Stuff.
Yeah. That kind of stuff happens all the time. And you know what happened? They moved all of our tables further away from that tree so we could only be in one area of the backyard. And it was just really annoying because me and Ian like to look at, like, we already, we would usually sit next to that tree anyway because, like, we have this favorite bird. What? I don't know what he said. I don't want to know. We had this bird that was a nuthatch. So it was our favorite bird. But we could still look at it and everything. It usually wouldn't get close to us. More Free Talk Live at freetalklive.com. And more Free Talk Live tomorrow, Sunday night. Thanks for listening. Peace.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people like passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. Physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it